Chapter 672. In the previous Wilderness Sea Dharma gathering, each faction had sent the same number of disciples. However, the meaning of this Dharma gathering was clearly different. Xianmen Tianzong was like the champion of the arena, and it felt like he was fighting against many alone. Be it the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong or the disciples of the other factions, they were all mentally prepared for this. Hence, when Shi Tianhao said that they would fight in groups, the people from the other factions did not think much of it. This was because it was obvious that Xianmen Tianzong had the most people participating in the Dharma gathering. Once they teamed up, they would undoubtedly be the most powerful. Even if the other factions teamed up, they were not from the same faction after all. There would definitely be loopholes in their cooperation, and they would not be as close as the cave abodes of Xianmen Tianzong. However, Shi Tianhao clearly meant that cultivators from different factions would form teams when they arrived. Shi Jingyun, Shi Shaoqian, and the others looked at each other in dismay. Their faces were filled with bewilderment. However, they quickly realized that it wasn't just them. Even the chosen disciples of the celestial sect of wonders were surprised. It was obvious that the content of the spell assembly had exceeded their expectations. Shi Tianhao looked around at the crowd and said calmly, "Fellow cultivators who came to Kunlun Mountain to watch the ceremony today are all friends of Xianmen Tianzong. We are of the same breath and branches, and we can help each other out. The Dharma gathering is not only for sparring, but also for communication. Working together and cooperating with each other will also be beneficial for future communication." There was nothing wrong with saying that. In the cultivation world, the more friends you have, the more paths you can take. There are all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures of every description, and you might need someone's help. Although the people present were from major factions, some of the things they needed might not be provided by their factions, or they would need to pay a high price. Fellow cultivators they knew outside might be able to help them. Most people fell silent, especially the cultivators from the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Qin dynasty. They looked at each other subconsciously. Then, some people's gazes shifted between the disciples of Taishu Temple and Xianmen Tianzong. The disciples of Xianmen Tianzong quickly settled down and stood where they were, listening to Shi Tianhao's instructions. Chen Xingyu, who was dressed in white, cupped his hands. "Elder Shi is right. The disciples of Taishu Temple have no objections. We will follow your arrangements." After a moment of silence, Shi Shaoqian also said, "We have no objections either." Beside him, Shi Jingyun also nodded. The people from the Great Zhou dynasty looked at Shi Jingyun and the others and nodded. "The guest follows the host's wishes. We will follow the rules set by your sect." Murong Yanran looked at Shi Tianhao calmly. In the past, she had seen Shi Tianhao when he was still a teenager. In the blink of an eye, he had also changed dramatically. She quietly said, "The Celerita's Sword sect disciples have no objections." The people from the other factions also nodded. Only the reincarnation sect's Heaven Path, Human Path, and Hell Path looked at each other with cold smiles. The leader of the Path of Hell's side was a tall and skinny young cultivator called Lu Hang. He looked coldly at the fatty Yang Likuan and said slowly, "Yang Likuan, you're a member of the Heaven's Path. You better behave yourself." Within the reincarnation sect, the other 5 paths were used to calling the reincarnation sect's Heaven Path the Heaven Path. Yang Likuan squinted his eyes and a smile appeared on his somewhat stupid and fat face. "You guys better pray to be in the same group as me. That way I will let you guys go for now. If you are not in the same group as me, I will take good care of you trash from the Hell Path and Human Path." In the All-Heaven Hall, Lin Feng sat on the main seat. Tian Tan Shen Qifeng turned to look at him and said apologetically, "My disciple is naughty and mischievous. I have made sect leader Lin and fellow Taoists laugh at me." Even though he said that, he didn't look at Hell Dao Lord Lu Jikuan at all. Lu Jikuan and Human Path's Peach Blossom Immortal Yi Longbing also treated Shen Qifeng like air. Qin Emperor Shi Yu also looked at Lin Feng and said silently, "This arrangement is appropriate." However, as mentioned before, the spell assembly is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is like this. Will the rest be divided into groups like this as well? Lin Feng smiled faintly. There will naturally be changes. Fellow Shi, you will know as you continue watching. In the spreading law hall, Shi Tianhao flicked his finger and a few light circles landed in midair. Then, tens of small light balls of different colors appeared. The number of light balls of different colors was also different. The most were over 10 while the least were less than 5. Everyone looked at these light balls of different colors and understood that these things represented the cultivators of different sects participating in the spell assembly. Each color represented a faction. The purple light balls with the most number, a total of 16, represented the top 16 disciples of Xianmen Tianzong. Looking carefully, they found that there were runes flashing inside the light balls. Each light ball had a name written on it. Each light ball represented a cultivator participating in the spell assembly. Chen Xingyu, Murong Yanran, Shi Jingyun, and the others also saw their names. After they entered the spreading law hall, their sects also reported their information to Shi Tianhao, who was the host. These light circles represent the groups. I have set up a magic power restriction. Each light circle can contain at most 2 light balls of the same color. Each light ball has your name engraved on it. Later, you will be randomly thrown into these light circles to determine the groups. As Shi Tianhao said this, he waved his hand. Tens of light balls turned into a stream of light that spiraled in the air. Finally, they exploded and fell like a rain of light, falling into the light circles below. Sure enough, when there were 2 light balls of the same color in a certain light circle, another light ball of the same color that fell was rejected by the light circle. It bounced up and fell into the other light circles. For a moment, there was a riot of colors. But soon, the dust settled. The Yuanying cultivators in the spreading law hall were closely watching this process. The primordial divinity big shots in the All-Heaven Palace were also paying attention. However, they all looked calm because they were sure that Shi Tianhao didn't cheat. As the host and host, Xianmen Tianzong would naturally do some petty tricks in this aspect and lose face for no reason. After all the small light balls fell into the light circles, they each shot out a tiny light ray and guided the owner of the name in the light ball. The results of the groups were immediately clear. There were a total of 16 light circles, which meant that everyone was divided into 16 groups. Each light circle had 5 small light balls, and some light circles had 4 light balls. Huang Zhenting looked around and asked loudly, "Master, what do you mean when you said a person's score is tied to the group they are in?" Shi Tianhao answered, "The Dharma assembly is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is to climb this starry sky pagoda. There are a total of 16 groups. Only the first 8 groups to reach the top of the pagoda can participate in the second stage. The last 8 groups will be eliminated. The faster you climb the starry sky pagoda, the earlier you reach the top, the earlier you can start the second stage. You will have the advantage in time, but you must pay attention to one thing." Shi Tianhao smiled. Reaching the top of the pagoda requires the entire group to reach the top to complete the first stage. In other words, the last person to reach the top of the pagoda will be the winner. The first person to reach the top of the pagoda will wait at the top. When these words were said, some people's expressions changed slightly. The groups were completely random, so the cultivators participating in the Dharma assembly would naturally have strong and weak cultivators. Moreover, most people didn't know whether their companions were strong or weak. If their companions were strong, it would be fine, but if they were weak, they would undoubtedly drag them down. Shi Tianhao glanced at them and said leisurely, "Otherwise, what do you think the groups are for?" Companions in each group can help each other and climb the starry sky pagoda together. However, it is strictly forbidden to use magic power to completely envelop people. The process of climbing must be completed with one's feet on the ground. You can choose not to help your companions in the same group. If you have the ability to quickly reach the top of the pagoda, that's fine too. However, you must wait patiently at the top of the pagoda for your companions to arrive. Only when everyone in your group has arrived will you be considered to have completed the first stage and begin the second stage. After a slight pause, Shi Tianhao revealed a kind smile on his face. That's right, let me explain that the top few in each stage will not only have priority to start the next stage, but they will also receive rewards. He waved his hand in the air, and a light and shadow flashed in the air. When most people's eyes came into contact with this light and shadow, their breathing paused slightly. The people present were the best of the younger generation of various forces, so naturally, they had a broad vision. Even if they hadn't seen many treasures before, they had at least heard about them. However, now that they saw the rewards prepared by Xianmen Tianzong, they still felt a little dizzy. Not to mention them, even the Yuanying stage ancestors who were watching in the VIP room of the Hongfa Hall looked carefully and felt a little envious. Dragon Vein Stone, Exquisite Jade Heart, 10,000 Ice Soul, Void Divine Stone, Violet Gold Star Iron. Xianmen Tianzong is really generous. He actually took out so many treasures as rewards for disciples in the Golden Elixir period and Foundation establishment stage. Shi Tianhao smiled slightly. These things are the rewards for the winners of the first stage of the Dharma Assembly. After that, there will be other rewards for the second and third stages. The entire Hongfa Hall seemed to be quiet for a moment. In the All-Heaven Hall, Dao Master Tian Tan, Shen Qifeng said with a smile, Sect Master Lin is really generous this time. For primordial spirit powerhouses, those treasures naturally didn't care about them, but they also knew their value. They were very precious for cultivators in the Golden Elixir period, Foundation establishment stage, and even Yuanying stage. Lin Feng smiled slightly, you flatter me. It's rare for so many people to come to Kunlun Mountain with their disciples as guests. Of course, I have to do my best as a host. He glanced at the primordial spirit powerhouses present. These little things are actually incidental. The final winner of this Dharma assembly will receive the primordial starlight baptism as a reward. Take it as a small token of my gratitude to everyone who came to Kunlun Mountain to watch the Dharma assembly. Of course, whether it would fall into the hands of their own disciples or the descendants of other forces, it would depend on the abilities of the younger generation. Even so, as soon as he said that, even Lin Daohan, Yan Mingyue, Shi Yu, and Zhu Hongwu slightly narrowed their eyes and nodded together slowly. No matter what the final result is, we must first thank the master of Xianmen for his generosity on behalf of the younger generation. Chapter 673. The rewards were generous and tempting. Everyone participating in the Dharma assembly began to seriously size up their companions who were in the same group as them. At this moment, everyone was sharing glory, so they indeed needed to work together. Shi Shaoqian raised his head to look at Shi Tianhao and asked, when we Golden Elixir period cultivators enter the pagoda, will we also be left with the strength of Foundation establishment stage? That's right. Shi Tianhao nodded and said silently, after all, most of the disciples in this Dharma assembly are at Foundation establishment stage, so for the sake of fairness, everyone's cultivation will be limited to the late stage of Foundation establishment stage. It wasn't just the Xian Gate Heavenly Sect whose true disciples were mostly at the Foundation establishment stage. The disciples of the other forces who came to participate in the spell assembly this time were mostly the descendants of the younger generation. Most of them were at the Foundation establishment stage. However, there's an exception. Shi Tianhao said, if two Golden Elixir period cultivators fight, then their cultivation will return to their original level, making it convenient for everyone to display their strengths. The fat on Yang Likuan's stupid and fat face shook, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. In other words, during the process of climbing this pagoda, we can also attack each other? Shi Tianhao chuckled. After entering the pagoda, each group will be located at different positions at the bottom of the pagoda. When we first enter the pagoda, we won't encounter each other, but as we climb, we might encounter each other. Different groups can't attack each other. Between members of the same group, fighting is prohibited. Those who violate this rule will be disqualified from participating in the Dharma assembly. Su Yunqing frowned slightly and asked, Martial Uncle, if a member of the same group is attacked by someone from another group and suffers a fatal injury, even though they will be fine with the protection of the Great Law Hall's mana restriction, what will happen to this group's result? Shi Tianhao said calmly, if someone can kill all the members of the same group, then he will be the first and last person of this group when he climbs to the top of the pagoda. Naturally, his group's result will be based on him. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Although what Shi Tianhao said made the competition easier, if someone really did that under the watchful eyes of so many people, the reputation of the force he belonged to would be swept to the ground. It was naturally the same principle for different groups of cultivators from the same sect to join forces to specifically target certain cultivators from other sections. It was tantamount to deliberately creating friction between the two sects and placing all the contradictions on the table. Xianmen Tianzong organized the Dharma Exchange Assembly. Generally speaking, the main purpose was to exchange pointers and learn from each other. It was to improve the relationship between the younger generation and not to have a life-and-death battle. If they really wanted to fight to the death, they naturally couldn't do it in the Spreading Law Hall. There were plenty of other places where they could die without anyone knowing. There were many things that the rules did not prohibit on the surface, but if anyone really did that, there was no doubt that they would not have a good ending. Not to mention the Yuanying stage patriarchs in the Great Law Hall, even the nascent divinity stage patriarchs were watching from the All Heavens Grand Hall. Everyone nodded in unison. Some of them were deep in thought. Shi Tianhao clapped his hands. All right, everyone, start gathering according to your groups. The pagoda will open now. As soon as he finished speaking, the bottom of the huge starry sky pagoda behind him flashed with light and revealed 16 doors. Shi Tianhao glanced left and right. Silently, he said, the first stage of this Dharma Exchange Assembly begins now. Everyone walked toward the door with the same number as their group. Su Yunsheng looked at the person beside him and said with a smile, this time, we'll be fighting side by side. In front of him, Irosa snorted softly. He didn't say anything and just stretched out his right fist. Su Yunsheng did the same. Their fists lightly collided in the air. First place. Apart from first place, it's still first place. Irosa said. Su Yunsheng glanced at the other people in his group and smiled. Of course. Their group had him and Irosa, and the others didn't have any obvious shortcomings. They were indeed strong contenders for first place. Irosa suddenly turned his head and looked at another group. In that group, there was only one disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. She was a gentle girl. She was Shi Tianhao's desolate Heaven Valley's seated contestant, Zhuge Wanqiu. Zhuge Wanqiu noticed Irosa's gaze and smiled. Your group is very strong. I'm afraid you'll be first place. Irosa passed over a voice transmission crystal and secretly placed it in Zhuge Wanqiu's palm. He used his magic power to transmit his voice. After entering the pagoda, contact me. Zhuge Wanqiu was stunned. She shook her head and said hesitantly, I'm afraid that's not a good idea. Then remember these symbols. If we encounter any difficulties, and we pass first, I'll leave you a hint, Irosa said. Seeing that Zhuge Wanqiu still wanted to say something, he said first, it's settled then. Zhuge Wanqiu looked at Irosa who turned and left. She pursed her lips and put away the voice transmission crystal. She looked up at Su Yunsheng. Su Yunsheng opened his mouth and paused for a while before saying, be careful. You and Irosa should be careful too. Zhuge Wanqiu nodded. Goldie is still a little immature. Other than senior sister Yuding, the two of you will be the ones facing the other forces in the assembly. Su Yunsheng nodded and also turned to leave. He passed through the door in front of him and stepped into the starry sky pagoda. At this moment, a young cultivator came to Zhuge Wanqiu's side and smiled. Senior sister Zhuge, I'm Luohe. Please take care of me. His clothes showed his identity. He was a cultivator from Purple Cloud Taoism. Luohe smiled. My master is Gu Lei. He's an old friend of your master, Elder Shi. So you're Senior Gu's disciple. Zhuge Wanqiu smiled from the bottom of her heart. Senior Gu and Li Kueyin didn't come this time. My master was still talking about them a while ago. He hoped that he could meet them this time. Luohe sighed. My master and the others are also very regretful. After master's wife passed the void thunder tribulation and formed her nascent soul, she cultivated a divine spell and needed my master to protect her. It took a long time, so I really couldn't make it this time. He even asked me to apologize to Elder Shi. Compared to the harmonious atmosphere between Zhuge Wanqiu and Luo He, the other side was not so harmonious. A burly young man smiled coldly at Xianmen Tianzong's Snowgale Valley disciple, Xiao Huan. I heard that you're the same as your master. You're also from the bitter and cold Snowgale. Xiao Huan frowned slightly. I'm a descendant of Snowgale. You are. The young man tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and looked at Xiao Huan with a faint smile. I'm Zhu Yong, the second legitimate son of Great Zhou's Marquis Xuanji. By the way, when Great Zhou conquered Snowgale, it was the first time I followed my father to the battlefield. A look of nostalgia appeared in his eyes. That's a pretty good memory for me. Xiao Huan's expression changed slightly. His gaze on Zhu Yong gradually became cold. Zhu Yong smiled and tilted his head slightly. He pretended to look at Xiao Huan unintentionally. Let me ask you something. After all, I haven't seen a living remnant of Snowgale for a while. Do the necks of the people from Snow Wind Forest have tougher necks that can't be cut off so easily? Xiao Huan took a deep breath and said coldly, at least they're harder than yours. Zhu Yong smiled. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to verify this in this lifetime. You're too weak. He had the cultivation of the golden elixir period. At this moment, facing Xiao Huan, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, he was quite condescending. Xiao Huan suddenly clenched his fist. In the All-Heaven Palace, Yu Hongyan's eyes seemed to be burning with flames. He stared at Zhu Hongwu, who was opposite him. Zhu Hongwu looked indifferent as if he didn't see it. Zhu Yi said silently, this is the legitimate son that you value. His upbringing is too poor. You have to call him elder brother. Zhu Hongwu said indifferently, Yong, grew up with me in the military camp. His way of thinking is the style of a soldier. Everything is based on practicality. Indeed, he lacks grandeur and righteousness. This is his shortcoming. As a soldier, it's enough. But if he wants to be a commander, he still needs some experience. Xiao Huan stared at Zhu Yong coldly. Ku Jing, who was in a different group, said with dissatisfaction, Zhu, are you purposely looking for trouble? Zhu Yong smiled carelessly. He only looked at Xiao Huan. On the contrary, it's very easy for me to verify whether your neck is tough or not. As long as we meet outside Kunlun Mountain, I can try at any time. Xiao Huan raised his hand to stop Ku Jing. Don't be impulsive. He's purposely provoking me to attack him. We're in the same group. The one who initiates the attack will lose the qualification to participate in the assembly. Ku Jing woke up and turned to look at Zhu Yong. Zhu Yong smiled. Your reaction isn't slow. Xiao Huan took a deep breath and pointed at Zhu Yong. He didn't say anything harsh. He only said coldly, after the assembly, we'll meet again one day. Yes. But at that time, there won't be the mana restriction of this palace to protect your life and suppress my cultivation. Zhu Yong smiled and didn't care. A general success is built on the bones of thousands. If you want to seek revenge, I don't mind adding to my military achievements. Don't block the way. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the side. Zhu Yong frowned. He saw a handsome but cold young man appear in front of him. It was Xianmen Tianzong Nirvana Cave, Yang Qing's only direct disciple, Zhou Yunsong. He was in the same group as Xiao Huan and Zhu Yong. Brushing past Zhu Yong, Zhou Yunsong walked towards the door at the bottom of the Starry Sky Pagoda. Zhu Yong's eyes flashed with disdain. He said indifferently, the disciples under the master of Xianmen are also extraordinary. Isn't your branch too weak? Why doesn't your master make up the numbers to participate in the assembly? Among Lin Feng's personal disciples, if we really had to talk about it, the most unremarkable person is Yang Qing. Yang Qing liked to be quiet and didn't like to move. He stayed on Jade Capital Mountain all year round and lived in seclusion. Other than occasionally going out to gather herbs, he almost never left the mountain and didn't fight with anyone. Even now, Luo Qingguo and Li Yuanfang were more famous than him. Zhou Yunsong had already reached the entrance of the Starry Sky Pagoda. He suddenly stopped when he heard this. He turned around and looked at Zhu Yong coldly with an indifferent expression. Looking around at the wide space of the spreading law hall, Zhou Yunsong muttered to himself, "There shouldn't be any fear of death here, right?" Chapter 674. Zhou Yunsong's face was expressionless, but at this moment, there was a strong hostility in his indifference, like an unsheathed blade. Zhu Yong sneered, killing intent surging all over his body, but it was condensed and not released, making it hard for others to notice. He had been a general for many years, and he had been on the battlefield with Zhu Hongwu since he was young. He grew up on the battlefield and was used to seeing blood and killing. Zhao Huan blocked in front of Zhou Yunsong. "Junior brother Zhou, calm down, he is purposely provoking you, he wants you to lose the qualification to participate in the spell assembly." "He will also lose the qualification," Zhou Yunsong said as he walked towards Zhu Yong. Zhao Huan was stunned for a moment, then immediately realized that Zhou Yunsong meant that he had the ability to kill Zhu Yong, thus triggering the restriction of spreading Law Hall, causing Zhu Yong to be eliminated along with him. Zhu Yong sneered at Zhou Yunsong, his hands were already clenched into fists, and the martial qi and blood in his body began to surge. Although spreading Law Hall suppressed his cultivation level to the same late stage of foundation establishment as Zhou Yunsong, Zhu Yong did not panic at all. Years of battle had sharpened his confidence to a pure and firm state. There were still cultivators who had not entered the Starry Sky Pagoda, and most of them stopped in their tracks out of curiosity. They wanted to watch this great show of everyone in the same group before it officially began. But at this moment, Zhou Yunsong suddenly frowned slightly, and a rare hint of anger appeared in his usually indifferent gaze. However, this anger was not directed at Zhu Yong, but more like it was directed at himself. In the All-Heaven Hall, Yang Qing's gaze was fixed on Zhou Yunsong. At this moment, she also frowned, and a helpless expression appeared on her face. "It just had to happen at this time, and the time has been brought forward." Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others looked at each other and used their mana to transmit their voices to Yang Qing, fifth junior brother. Yang Qing shook her head. "Yunsong's magical power is improving too quickly, so the time of the attack is getting shorter and shorter." Lin Feng's expression was calm as usual. He said unhurriedly, "With Tianhao down there, nothing will happen to Yun. This spell gathering is a rare experience for him. It will be beneficial to him." Yang Qing nodded. "Master is right." Inside the Great Law Hall, Zhou Yunsong's footsteps slightly paused, but he still continued to walk towards Zhu Yong. At this moment, Shi Tianhao, who had not intervened in the dispute between the two sides, appeared beside him and pressed on his shoulder. Zhou Yunsong suddenly turned his head and stared at Shi Tianhao fearlessly. Shi Tianhao used his mana to suppress him, forcing him to sit on the ground. He said unhurriedly, "Execute your art immediately. If you attack blindly now, you will only get a momentary pleasure. You will suffer later." Zhou Yunsong did not say anything. There was indignation and anger in his eyes, but in the end, he still followed Shi Tianhao's order and sat cross-legged on the ground. He actually completely ignored Zhu Yong in front of him and meditated to practice his qi. The surrounding people were stunned. After a while, they came back to their senses. A strange expression appeared on their faces, as if they were suppressing the smile on their faces. Although many people controlled their expressions, their eyes were now staring at Zhou Yunsong with obvious contempt. Zhu Yong looked at Zhou Yunsong and laughed involuntarily. "Don't tell me you are possessed by the devil. You pretend to be aggressive, but it turns out that you are a paper tiger. You might as well be a coward from the beginning." Although the others were not as straightforward as Zhu Yong, it was obvious that most of them had the same thought. Even the way they looked at Zhao Huan and the other Xianmen Tianzong disciples became strange. "You guys are Xianmen Tianzong, are you?" You sent this kind of trash to participate in the Dharma assembly? Is this the seated contestant that you guys selected in advance? He looked decent, but in the end, he was just bluffing. There was no need for others to do anything, and he was the first to have a problem. No one said these words out loud, but many people had the same thought. In the All Heavens Great Hall, the group of primordial divinity experts looked at each other. The atmosphere was a little awkward, but they did not show any disdain. A foundation establishment disciple was not worthy of their disdain. Many primordial divinity experts only looked at Lin Feng and his disciple with probing eyes. However, such gazes were very embarrassing in itself. Especially Yang Qing, who was Zhou Yunsong's master. At this moment, he was even more embarrassed. However, Yang Qing's emotions were still calm, and his state of mind was calm. He only felt a little helpless. Sigh, the timing is really not right. Xiao Yan turned to look at him. Might as well let Yunsong go through the heavenly tribulation now. If he goes through it in one go, he will have a higher chance of success. Yang Qing shook his head. The time is not right yet. If he tries blindly now, he will only have a 50% chance of success at most. Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu looked at each other. They did not know much about Zhou Yunsong's situation. Seeing the doubt in their eyes, Zhu Yi explained, fifth junior brother's disciple, Zhou Yunsong, has a special innate physique. This causes him to encounter a huge obstacle in his life when he cultivates Taoist techniques. Once Yunsong successfully forms his gold core and advances to the golden elixir period, he will immediately trigger the Yin fire tribulation on his own after forming the golden elixir. Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu were stunned. Doesn't that mean? Zhu Yi nodded. Yunsong has never formed his gold core. Once he tries to advance to the golden elixir period, if he successfully passes through 2 checkpoints, he will directly reach the middle stage of the golden elixir, knowing the heavenly connection realm. If he fails, he will naturally die under the Yin fire tribulation, his body and Taoist will disappear. Many cultivators in the early stage of the golden elixir period do not have the confidence to survive the Yin fire tribulation. They would rather stay in the early stage of the golden elixir period for the rest of their lives. Most of the cultivators in the early stage of the golden elixir period have to go through a long period of preparation, polishing their magic power, figuring out Taoist techniques, and only after accumulating enough would they challenge the Yin fire tribulation. However, Zhou Yunsong has no choice, nor does he have the time to prepare. Once he successfully forms his gold core, he will immediately welcome the Yin fire tribulation. Zhu Yi looked at Li Yuanfang and Luo Qinggu. Slowly, he said, counting the time he spent cultivating in the time paradise, Yunsong has been studying Taoist techniques for nearly 10 years, even longer than the two of you. But in fact, he has been stuck in the late stage of the foundation building realm for a very long time. If it wasn't because of this difficulty, he would be the same as the two of you, also a cultivator in the golden elixir period. Yang Qing sighed at the side and said, Master gave me a solution. These years, I have been teaching Yunsong according to the solution, and at the same time, I have been helping him accumulate and improve his magic power. When he is fully prepared, he will have a great chance to break through the difficulty in one go. It's just that suppressing Yunsong's magic power realm like this will naturally have side effects. Every once in a while, it will flare up. As Yunsong's cultivation increases day by day, the flare-up period also becomes shorter. I originally calculated that it should only flare up again after the Dharma Exchange Conference is over. Who knew that this time, it would be so much earlier, far exceeding my expectations. Wang Lin did not speak all along. Silently, he looked at Zhou Yunsong in the light and shadow. This is also a training for him, a training of his mind and willpower. Yang Qing laughed bitterly. Wang Lin said it lightly, but this training is really unbearable. Originally, his morale was high and he was ready to fight the enemy, but who knew that a problem would occur to him? In the end, he was treated as a weakling who was bluffing, suffering double the humiliation from the enemy and the disdainful gazes from the people around him. This feeling was really not something that could be described with just the word sullen. Zhu Yong looked at Zhou Yunsong and smiled in disdain. He raised his head and looked at Shi Tianhao. Elder Shi, this disciple of your sect should be directly disqualified from participating in the Dharma assembly, right? Since a problem occurred during the process of cultivation, then the first thing to do is to ensure his safety and solve the problem. Otherwise, if any accidents occur during the process of participating in the Dharma assembly, it will not be of any benefit to others or oneself. Shi Tianhao glanced at him and said slowly, "That's right, we should indeed solve the problem first. That's why he is now cultivating here. After he finishes, he will enter the Starry Sky Pagoda. If the people in the same group does not want to wait here, then they can go up the pagoda first and wait for him at the top." Zhu Yong's expression changed slightly. "How can that be? Why not?" Shi Tianhao was neither too fast nor too slow. He smiled leisurely. If the others were in the same group as Yun Song, the result would be the same. Zhu Yong said in a low voice, "Are you guys going to protect and favor your own sect member? If something happens to you, the other people in your group, including Yun Song and Xiao Huan, will also have to wait for you. The rules have been set, and everyone is treated equally. If you don't want to follow the rules, then scram. If you want to break the rules, you're not worthy." Shi Tianhao directly turned and left, no longer paying attention to Zhu Yong. Although Zhu Yong and Zhu Yi had the same father and were actually older than him, Shi Tianhao did not treat him as someone on the same level at all. That was why when Xiao Huan and Zhu Yong were fighting, Shi Tianhao did not interfere. Zhu Yong's cultivation was suppressed to the foundation establishment stage by Hongfa Hall, so Shi Tianhao let Xiao Huan fight with him. This was also a form of training for his own disciple. Xiao Huan cupped his hands towards the other two people in the same group. "My apologies, my two fellow Taoists." After saying that, he crossed his legs and sat directly next to Zhou Yunsong, smiling at Zhu Yong. Zhu Yong was choked by Shi Tianhao's words. He took a deep breath to calm himself down. When he looked at Zhou Yunsong on the ground again, he immediately felt a pain in his balls. If it was someone in the other group who had to meditate to adjust their breathing due to qi deviation, Zhu Yong did not mind beating a dog when it was down. Attacking the opponent and triggering the protective restriction of Hongfa Hall would directly send the opponent out. However, Zhou Yunsong was in the same group as him, so he could neither beat him nor scold him. Using words to provoke Xiao Huan and Zhou Yunsong was one thing, but asking him to be buried together with a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, Zhu Yong absolutely would not do it. As a result, he could only stare at Zhou Yunsong with wide eyes, as if he had also become Zhou Yunsong's protector. This kind of feeling made Zhu Yong feel a kind of pain in his balls. Now, he sincerely hoped that the cultivators in the other groups would come and reward this kid on the ground and send Zhou Yunsong out. This way, his group would not have to calculate Zhou Yunsong's score. However, the others were not stupid, they easily understood the reason behind this. With Zhou Yunsong here, his group would have to wait for him. Without Zhou Yunsong, Zhu Yong's group would instead have one less burden. Thus, Zhu Yong could only watch the other 15 groups enter the Starry Sky Pagoda, his heart gradually sank to the bottom. Chapter 675. At the foot of Jade Capital Mountain, in the central hall at the top of Cloud Peak, the group of foundation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong was also watching the entire process of the Dharma Communication Conference through the light and shadow illusion in the air. The group of young people looked at Zhu Yong, their anger rising, and they all cursed, "This bastard is asking for it. He provoked a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong on Jade Capital Mountain. Why didn't the patriarch and elders teach him a lesson?" At this moment, a mana projection suddenly appeared in the center of the hall, condensing into the image of a handsome young man. It was Xiao Yan who had projected his mana into the Cloud Peak Hall. When the group saw him, they all bowed. "Elder Xiao. Grand Elder." Xiao Yan looked at them and smiled. "Not bad, you're all quite spirited." He pointed at Zhu Yong who was in the light and shadow illusion in the air and smiled faintly. "The first day I joined the sect, I became a disciple of the patriarch. The patriarch had already admonished me. Today, I'll use this bastard as an example to tell you. The group of Foundation disciples focused and listened to Xiao Yan's speech. After all, this was Lin Feng's admonition. Over the years, as Lin Feng's authority grew, most of the teaching of the Foundation disciples was handed over to Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others. The Foundation disciples rarely had the chance to listen to his teachings directly. Now that Xiao Yan was willing to share with them what he had learned when he first joined the sect, the group of young people were all excited and happy. Xiao Yan smiled. The patriarch once said that the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong can eat anything but suffer losses. If you were beaten by someone's junior, then beat them back yourself. Don't be like a child who hasn't grown up, crying to me and saying that I don't have such a useless disciple. If you beat up the junior, don't be afraid if the senior comes, I'll stand up for you. Xiao Yan smiled. That's what I said to the patriarch back then. Even if the old one is provoked, you don't have to do anything. I will concentrate on my cultivation and then go back to find him. When the time comes, the old and the young will fight together. The group of Foundation disciples cheered in unison, then carefully considered Xiao Yan's words. After a moment, they all bowed to Xiao Yan. Disciples will definitely focus on cultivation, and will not become lazy or dependent because of the strength of the sect. Xiao Yan smiled and said, the sect will always be your backing, shielding you from wind and rain. But the nestlings that are always sheltered by their parents will never grow up. This was the way Lin Feng had always taught his disciples. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others had also inherited his philosophy. Taking Zhu Yong's matter as an example, the dispute between him and Zhao Huan would naturally be settled by Zhao Huan. Even if Zhao Huan wasn't a match for Zhu Yong, Dao Yuding, Su Yunsheng, Ying Rosa, and the others would come forward to take revenge. If Zhu Hongwu was involved in bullying the young, then Lin Feng would definitely teach him a lesson. Just like the dispute between Su Yunsheng and Ying Rosa and the reincarnation sect's heavenly axiom Meng Bei and Du Ting, if Su Yunsheng and Ying Rosa won and the other party's Yuanying stage ancestor came forward to bully them, Zhu Yi would definitely not sit by and watch his disciples suffer. But if Su Yunsheng's skills were indeed inferior and he lost to Du Ting, then there was nothing to complain about. He would dejectedly scram back home to cultivate, and when he was done, he would find someone to take revenge. Xianmen Tianzong didn't suffer losses, but it wasn't that he couldn't afford to lose. In the past, when Xiao Yan ascended the Cloud Peak and Shi Tianhao fought with Shi Tianyi, it was the same principle. When Flowing Light Sword Venerable and the big shots of Taishu Temple interfered, Lin Feng would naturally intervene. But when Xiao Yan fought with Murong Yanran or Shi Chongyun, or when Shi Tianhao fought with Shi Tianyi, Lin Feng wouldn't interfere. Lin Feng was protective of his disciples, but the premise was that his disciples had to live up to his expectations and be motivated. He hoped that even if his disciples couldn't become pillars of the sect, they could at least be down-to-earth cornerstones. Once they entered the sect, they would just eat and wait for death, wholeheartedly rely on the sect's glory and protection, but they would only be a disgrace when they went out. This kind of disciples was definitely not what Lin Feng wanted. The strong would be helped by the heavens, and self-confidence was the most basic requirement. If the other party was an adult, it was a different matter. If a child the same age as you insulted your family and parents in front of you, your first reaction would definitely be to slap them in the face instead of running home to complain to your parents. Of course, this was a dispute between Zhu Yong and Zhao Huan. If he dared to jump in front of Xiao Yan, Wang Lin, and the others, or even jump in front of Lin Feng to mock them, he would undoubtedly be slapped to death. In fact, not only Lin Feng, but also the big shots of the primordial spirit realm like Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to the small conflicts between the younger generation, as long as they didn't cross the line and didn't fight to the death. They would deal with the matters between the younger generation themselves. Only when the conflicts rose to the level of sects would Lin Feng and the others get involved. Or maybe the relationship between the two forces was relatively sharp, which would attract the attention of the higher-ups. At the Wilderness Sea Assembly, the disciples of the Hu family and the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong were very unhappy, but it didn't affect the communication between Azura Lord Hu Xiu and Lin Feng at all. Not to mention Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others also didn't take it to heart. There was no smooth sailing in life. There would always be all kinds of people and things. There was no guarantee that everyone would smile at you, let alone people from different forces. Only by doing their best to overcome the problems could they play the role of training. Your sect's Qin Xingyu is indeed extraordinary. Sir, a great teacher produces a great disciple. At this moment, Lin Feng was sitting on the main seat, leisurely looking at the scene inside the starry sky pagoda in the illusion of light and shadow. He smiled and said to Lin Daohan. Lin Daohan shook his head lightly. Celestial Sect Master, you flatter me. My disciple still has many areas to train. In the Starry Sky Pagoda, the two groups that were climbing the pagoda the fastest were Su Yunqing's and Inarosa's groups. They were practically advancing side by side with Qin Xingyu's group. The space inside the pagoda was wide, like the vast starry sky. If one wanted to climb up, they needed to find a suitable small star and then use the movement of the small star to continue going up. The small star on the first level of the pagoda could only send people to the second level. After reaching the height of the second level, they would start to descend. At that time, the cultivators on the star would have to give up on this star and find a small star that could help them climb from the second level to the third. Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, there were countless stars constantly floating up and down. Finding a suitable small star was the most basic test for the young cultivators who were participating in the spell assembly. It was a test of their perception and judgment. After Lin Daohan observed for a while, he asked Lin Feng, after stepping on the star, the stronger the cultivator's magic power, the faster the star seems to move? Lin Feng smiled. That's right. The moving speed of the small star was not constant. The stronger the magic power of the person who stepped on the star, the faster the star's moving speed. A look of realization appeared on the faces of the group of primordial spirit big shots, and they all nodded slightly. The celestial sect of 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 the celestial sect. After discovering this, Su Yunqing, Rosa, Qin Xingyu, and the others had a brief interaction. After some discussion, the two groups of 10 people directly joined forces and looked for the star to climb. This allowed the two groups that were already in the lead to further expand their advantage. There were many levels inside the Starry Sky Pagoda. If they wanted to fight for first place, they could go their separate ways after reaching the top few levels and use their own methods. There were many levels in front of them, so they could work together and widen the gap between them and the other 14 groups. Su Yunqing, Rosa, Qin Xingyu, and the others' choices made many of the big shots secretly nod. Climbing the Starry Sky Pagoda was not just a competition of speed. There were also many difficulties and dangers. Star illusory formation, meteor rain, magnetic traps, all kinds of difficulties were waiting for the cultivators who climbed the pagoda. These terrifying natural disasters were all simulated by the magic power inside the Starry Sky Pagoda. Otherwise, if they were real things, even primordial spirit cultivators might not be able to guarantee their safety. In addition to the various natural disasters, Shi Tianhao also threw in the swan knee's flesh. This made everyone even more excited. Previously, when the Xianmen Tianzong disciples competed with each other, the number of swan knee's flesh that could breed Sunyang beasts was fixed in every competition venue. Now, although there were many cultivators in the Starry Sky Pagoda, there were even more Sunyang beasts. The swan knee's flesh could breed on its own without any control. Soon, the Starry Sky Pagoda was filled with tens of thousands of Sunyang beasts. These Sunyang beasts were the obstacles that the cultivators who climbed the pagoda had to face. Therefore, Su Yunqing, Qin Xingyu, and the others' joint action was a very effective method. After all, regardless of how the rewards were distributed, the prerequisite was that they could successfully reach the top of the pagoda. Of course, there were different groups like Su Yunqing's group that worked together. Naturally, there were different groups that fought the moment they met. The Reincarnation Sect's Heavenly Tao cultivator, Yang Likuan, fought against the reincarnation sect's Hell Dao cultivator, Lu Hang. Both sides had a deep grudge against each other, but Yang Likuan still had the upper hand. Putting aside his cultivation base, his divine ability to control the karmic fire of the Red Lotus made the eyes of the nascent divinity realm experts in the All-Heaven Great Hall light up when they saw him. The proficiency of his technique was not something that could be achieved through hard work. Clearly, he was talented. As soon as the lotus-like scarlet flames landed on Lu Hang's spirit design, they immediately destroyed it. Lu Hang did not dare to use his dermic power to strengthen the array because the Red Lotus Hellfire would use his dermic power to directly pull his divine soul out of his body and into the cycle of reincarnation. The Red Lotus Hellfire was one of the 7 great true fires in the world. Among them, it was ferocious and strange. It was not inferior to the other true fires. Due to this special characteristic of the Red Lotus Hellfire, it was extremely difficult for cultivators to control and refine it. In the reincarnation sect's heavenly Tao, there were very few people who could cultivate this powerful divine power. However, Yang Likuan's next move made everyone frown. He formed a hand seal and the Red Lotus Hellfire in front of him dispersed and turned into 18 red lotuses. They surrounded Lu Hang but did not stick close to him. Instead, they continuously wore down Lu Hang's dermic power. Due to the characteristics of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, every bit of Lu Hang's magic power was like carving out a piece of flesh from Lu Hang's body, causing damage to Lu Hang's divine soul. The entire process was like a death by 1,000 cuts, extremely cruel. Chapter 676. Lu Hang's face was incomparably pale, and his forehead was covered with dense beads of sweat. I told you, don't let a piece of trash like you fall into my hands. Yang Likuan's stupidly fat cheeks trembled as a vicious light flashed in his small eyes. He laughed and said, don't worry, I won't use the karmic fire of the Red Lotus to corrode your divine soul. If I do that, I'll trigger the protective barrier of the pagoda. You'll be fine. Now, I can play with you slowly. In the All-Heavens Palace, Tao Master Hell Lu Jikuan glared at Tao Master Tian Tan Shen Qifeng and said, Shen Qifeng, your disciple is too much. It was fine for juniors to engage in verbal conflict and fight, but Yang Likuan was clearly deliberately torturing Lu Hang. He wanted Lu Hang to suffer a torture worse than death. Shen Qifeng smiled. Martial Uncle Lu, don't be impatient. This is a one-on-one fight. Both sides will use their dermic powers and divine powers. There will be no sneak attacks, no besieging, and no taking advantage of each other. This is just a friendly match. Right now, in the celestial sect of 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 the celestial sect. Lu Jikuan's face darkened. Training. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus harms one's soul and damages the foundation of one's dermic powers. Let's not talk about the torture that is akin to torture. If this continues for a long time, Lu Hang's golden core will be destroyed. His life will not be in danger, but he will be completely crippled. You're telling me this is just a training session? Your disciple is doing this on purpose. Do you think the Hell Dao is easy to bully? Shen Qifeng smiled and shook his head. How is that possible? Although Li Kuan and Lu Hang are from the Heavenly Law and Hell Dao respectively, they are still disciples of the reincarnation sect. It's just a sparring session. They won't go overboard. Martial Uncle Lu, you're worrying too much. Lu Jikuan only sneered and his expression grew colder. Although the reincarnation sect and the 6 paths of reincarnation were in constant conflict, they could still maintain harmony with each other. However, Yang Likuan's actions had clearly crossed the line. At this moment, inside the pagoda, between Yang Likuan and Lu Hang, a stream of dim yellow water suddenly appeared, cutting off Yang Likuan's Red Lotus karmic fire. The stream of water turned into a sharp water arrow and shot Lu Hang to death. The fatal damage immediately triggered the Great Law Hall's protective restriction, which protected Lu Hang and sent him out of the Starry Sky Pagoda. Lu Hang's face revealed a look of relief. He looked at the purple-clothed girl controlling the water and nodded gratefully. The smile on Yang Likuan's face disappeared. He turned to look at Li Xingfei and asked, "Are you helping him?" The gloomy true water of the netherworld hovered around Li Xingfei like a water dragon protecting the girl in purple. She said calmly, "The key is to reach the top of the tower. You are wasting too much of our group's time by doing this." Yang Likuan's beady eyes flickered with a cruel light. "Mind your own business. If you can't wait, you can all leave first. I can deal with the 5 of them by myself." Li Xingfei said indifferently, "I don't want to be held back by others." Yang Likuan let out a strange laugh. "Drag me down. You should say that to your own sect mates in Xianmen Tianzong. I don't know whose sect he is. He looks sharp, but he's actually a silver spearhead. Good to look at but useless. The Dharma assembly has already begun, but he can still go berserk. Your Xianmen Tianzong doesn't need someone like this to make up the numbers, does it?" Yang Likuan clicked his tongue and said, "Master is only a stopgap among the Xianmen sect master's many direct disciples. His disciple is even worse. What use does your Xianmen Tianzong have for a branch like this? Is it to be shameful?" Shen Qifeng's voice suddenly came from inside the pagoda. "Li Kuan, if you speak without thinking, you will immediately return to the sect to receive your punishment." Yang Likuan's stupidly fat cheeks trembled. Okay, I won't say it anymore. I won't say it anymore. But master, even if I don't say it, the truth is there." He laughed strangely and ignored Li Xingfei. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus spread out again and defeated the cultivators in Lu Hang's group one by one. This time, he didn't torture them. Instead, he directly triggered a fatal attack and sent them out. In the Hall of All Heavens, Yang Qing's expression was calm. Shen Qifeng said apologetically, "My disciple is arrogant and rebellious. After we return to the sect, I will definitely punish him." On the opposite side, Wang Lin raised his eyes and looked at Shen Qifeng. His expression was cold. Slowly, he said, "Our sect holds a Dharma assembly and invites all the young disciples of the same sect to exchange pointers. The purpose is to train the younger generation. It's not a big deal to be young and frivolous. However, the Dharma assembly has just begun. No one knows what will happen next." Shen Qifeng smiled. "With the protection of your sect's Hall of Spreading Law's mana restriction, he won't lose his life." Wang Lin said indifferently, "That's true. However, there's an old saying, living is worse than death." Slowly, Shen Qifeng said after a moment of silence, "On the path of cultivation, there are always many unknown hardships. Everyone has their own destiny." Lin Feng, who was sitting on the main seat, didn't say anything. He just suddenly smiled and looked at the illusion of light and shadow. Although he didn't say anything, everyone's gazes followed his gaze. Outside a starry sky pagoda, Zhou Yunsong, who had been sitting cross-legged to calm his mana and was seen by almost everyone as a burden, finally opened his eyes and stood up. After waiting for a while, Zhu Yong and the other 2 also rushed into the starry sky pagoda. In their opinion, they would enter the pagoda first. After Zhou Yunsong entered the pagoda, he might die because of the many difficulties in the pagoda. This way, they wouldn't count Zhou Yunsong's score. In this way, it was better than waiting for Zhou Yunsong to come. It would be a waste of time and nothing would be gained. Only Zhao Huan stayed outside the pagoda. Silently, she waited for Zhou Yunsong. Zhou Yunsong looked at Zhao Huan. After a moment of silence, he said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." Although Zhao Huan was a little anxious, she still smiled and said, "It's just a communication session after all. We're still disciples of the same sect." Zhou Yunsong nodded lightly and didn't say anything. He took the lead and entered the starry sky pagoda. Zhao Huan followed behind him. As soon as they arrived at the first level of the starry sky pagoda, a tide of roaring young beasts surrounded them. Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing, who were in the All-Heaven Great Hall, looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Xiao Yan shook his head and said, "Little junior brother is too deceitful. He put that piece of swan knees flesh on the first level of the pagoda. All the newborn roaring young beasts are gathered here. Then, they are slowly transported to the other levels by the pagoda. The first level has the most roaring young beasts. Luo Qinggu stuck out her tongue and said, "Little senior brother is like a big pack of hunting dogs. They are chasing after those disciples and driving them to climb higher." Li Yuanfang said silently, "The others have already left. The slowest one has already reached the third level." Although a large number of roaring young beasts on the first level are also chasing up, most of them are staying behind. Inside the Great Law Hall, the people from the other sects shook their heads helplessly when they saw this. This time, not only Zhou Yunsong, but Zhao Huan was also in trouble. Xianmen Tianzong had a total of 6 seated disciples. 2 of them were going to be eliminated in the first stage. Someone couldn't help but sigh and say, "This Zhou Yunsong has dragged his fellow disciples down." In the VIP room of the Reincarnation Sect's Heavenly Tao, Du Ting couldn't help but laugh and say, "Regardless of the final result of this spell assembly, with this Zhou Yunsong, Xianmen Tianzong has already lost a lot of face." His master, Meng Bei, said coldly, "Even if the other disciples of Xianmen Tianzong can defeat everyone and take the top few places in the spell assembly, they can't beat such a huge stain on their reputation. This person has basically wiped out all the efforts of their fellow disciples." Du Ting chuckled and said, "Master is right. That's the reason." Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, Zhao Huan frowned when she saw hundreds of roaring young beasts pouncing at them together. There were even more ferocious beasts in the distance. Just when she was about to remind Zhou Yunsong to be careful, she saw that this companion of hers didn't stop at all. Instead, he walked toward the tide-like beast horde. As Zhou Yunsong walked forward step by step, a blazing light suddenly burst out from his body. Golden needle-like true sun fire divine light was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. He looked like a scorching sun. In the next moment, like a comet crashing into the ground, the ball of light that Zhou Yunsong had turned into smashed into the center of the roaring young beasts. A violent tremor spread out from the center of the landing point, directly causing an earthquake. Even the space on the first level of the huge Starry Sky Pagoda was faintly shaking. The few roaring young beasts that were close to the landing point of Zhou Yunsong were directly smashed into pieces by the true sun fire that burst out from his body. Zhao Huan's eyes widened abruptly as he stared blankly at Zhou Yunsong, who had reappeared. Wind blew under his feet as he strode forward. Some roaring young beasts dashed toward him, but with a wave of his hand, the blazing true sun fire exploded and killed one of the roaring young beasts. All the cultivators in the Great Law Hall who were watching the battle were dumbfounded. Du Ting even almost choked to death on his own saliva. "This kid, he actually..." Meng Bei also frowned and snorted, "It's useless. There are too many roaring young beasts. Even if he has some real talent, he won't be able to fight them all. Even ants could kill an elephant when there were too many of them, not to mention the ferocious roaring young beasts." With such a huge number of them, even Meng Bei, a cultivator of the Golden Elixir period, could only look at them and not dare to take the risk. In the end, although his magical power is not bad, his foundation is not stable, and he can easily go mad. It's just a waste of effort. While Meng Bei was talking, the speed of his speech was getting slower and slower, and his voice was getting lower and lower. However, his eyes were getting wider and wider. Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, Zhou Yunsong, who was surrounded by hundreds of roaring young beasts, still had a cold look on his face. However, his eyes were gradually filled with a ferocious aura, which was even more brutal, bloodthirsty, and violent than the ferocious roaring young beasts in front of him. The golden flame that surrounded his body suddenly disappeared strangely, turning into a dark and ferocious black flame that looked like thick smoke. However, the true sun fire was nowhere to be seen, and only wisps of black smoke could be seen circling around him. Zhao Huan looked at Zhou Yunsong in surprise, and a faint fear rose in his heart. His instinct told him that he should quickly turn around and run away, staying as far away from Zhou Yunsong as possible. Chapter 677. Zhou Yunsong stretched out his right hand. His palm was like a blade as he slashed through the air. A streak of black smoke sliced through the air like a blade. The three roaring young beasts blocking in front of Zhou Yunsong did not even have time to react before they were sliced into 6 pieces. The cold youth waved his hand again and another 5 roaring young beasts were killed. The ferocious roaring young beasts that gave Foundation establishment cultivators headaches were nothing in Zhou Yunsong's eyes. With a casual wave of his hand, he had already killed more than 20 roaring young beasts. Among the spectators, there were people with high cultivation and good eyesight. They could tell that Zhou Yunsong was not squeezing out his potential. His magic power was still abundant, so killing these roaring young beasts was not a problem at all. Not only was it effortless, but as Zhou Yunsong advanced, the more roaring young beasts he killed, the stronger his murderous aura became. It was as if a peerless blade was unsheathed from its scabbard, giving off a terrifying glow. The roaring young beasts were not without intelligence. After suffering a loss, they would retreat temporarily and gather more comrades before attacking Zhou Yunsong again. But it was useless. No matter how many came, Zhou Yunsong killed them all. Wherever the black smoke passed, blood flowed and bones piled up. Such ferocious battle power could no longer be measured by the standard of Foundation establishment cultivators. Inside the All Heavens Great Hall, the group of primordial spirit realm experts frowned when they saw the cold and ferocious youth. Their gazes fell on the thick black smoke that had completely enveloped Zhou Yunsong. Could it be the burning yang physique that was recorded in the ancient books? Yan Mingyue looked at Lin Feng and the others in surprise. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Sorry for the embarrassment." Yan Mingyue shook her head and praised, "I really did not expect to see a living person with the burning yang physique." Even Lin Daohan nodded slightly, agreeing with Yan Mingyue's words. The burning yang physique was too rare. In terms of quantity, it was even rarer than the pure yang physique and the pure yin physique. Moreover, it was very difficult for people with the burning yang physique to survive. The yang qi in their body would spontaneously combust and be destroyed, burning the person to ashes. Therefore, the majority of people with the burning sun physique would unknowingly die from this special physique before anyone knew about it. Only by discovering the secret of his physique in advance and then having a formidable sect take him as a disciple and use top Dao arts to nurture and guide him, would he be able to control the spontaneous combustion of the yang qi within his body and preserve his life. People with the burning yang physique could cultivate the yang attribute cultivation method, so their talent and speed were not inferior to those with the pure yang physique. Their combat power was much stronger. Using Zhou Yunsong as an example, he could turn his yang qi into the horrifying burning yang qi, which could strengthen his supernatural powers and dermic powers. He could obtain destructive power far beyond his current realm. Xiao Yan smiled and said, "My 5th junior brother's cultivation method is a little slow. It seems that many juniors look down on him. That's because 5th junior brother has spent most of his time teaching his disciples." Yang Qing smiled and said, "There are so many primordial divinity seniors here. Eldest senior brother, don't flatter me. Among the senior and junior brothers, I am indeed the most useless." Zhou Yunsong killed his way to the moving star that led to the 2nd level of the Starry Sky Pagoda. Everywhere he passed, the corpses of hundreds of young beasts were everywhere. This was not the young beasts coming to him bit by bit. He was surrounded by hundreds of young beasts, but he killed his way out without changing his expression. For a moment, the 1st level of the Starry Sky Pagoda was filled with the smell of blood. It was like hell. Seeing this scene, Yan Mingyue couldn't help but turn her head to look at Lin Daohan. "Xingyu has an opponent this time." Lin Daohan looked for a moment and nodded his head, saying, "Not bad." Shen Qifeng looked at Zhou Yunsong. After a while, he shook his head and smiled, "Luckily it's in this spreading law hall. Serves my disciple right to be taught a lesson." While saying this, his gaze looked towards the Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongguo. Zhu Hongguo sat on a large chair without saying a word. His gaze was focused on the illusions of light and shadow. In one of the illusions of light, Zhu Yongzhen was standing on a star and rising towards a higher level. At this time, Qin Emperor Stonefeather's calm voice sounded in his ears. "Congratulations, Xian Gate Master, there is a successor among the juniors." Hearing Stonefeather's congratulations, Lin Feng smiled slightly. "Fellow Stonefeather is too kind. The juniors of the hidden sect still need more training. They are still far from becoming talented." The Azura Lord Huixiu, who didn't say a word the whole time, suddenly said, "This kid has such a heavy murderous nature." If other people said this, it would be hard to avoid the suspicion of nitpicking, but Huixiu wouldn't say this. Including everyone here, no matter how high or low their cultivation, his murderous nature can be ranked in the top 3. Lin Feng smiled. "It's a pity I can't give it to Fellow, it's best if Fellow doesn't think about it." Huixiu shook his head and didn't say anything. And the gazes of the others more or less swept past Wang Lin, thinking to themselves, will such a godlike character appear in every generation of Xianmen Tianzong? Then everyone's gazes fell on Yang Qing. Looking at this gentle and indifferent young man, someone thought, Zhou Yunsong has such a fierce and cold temperament, but he worships this person. Could it be that he wants to use this person as a cage to suppress Zhou Yunsong's murderous nature? The group of primordial spirit big shots paid attention to Zhou Yunsong more because of his special talent. With such talent as a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, it was almost guaranteed that such talent would not be wasted. His future was bound to be limitless. Transforming deep potential into powerful strength was already a matter in front of them. However, as the leaders of the various forces, the attention of the primordial spirit big shots was still more focused on the overall situation. Silently, they observed the performance of everyone in the Starry Sky Pagoda. And the cultivators of the other forces in the Spreading Law Hall were not calm in their hearts. Before this Dharma assembly, everyone was guessing in their hearts whether the next generation of disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others could still be as invincible and sweep away the heroes of the same generation like their masters. Would Xianmen Tianzong have the hidden worry of declining after 3 generations? Would there be a successor? The young talents of the other forces who came to participate in the Dharma assembly this time were also eager to challenge the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong and break the undefeated legend of Xianmen Tianzong. However, now it seemed that Xianmen Tianzong was still strong. Many people were even secretly worried for their fellow disciples. It was impossible for the people in the Starry Sky Pagoda to know what just happened on the first level of the pagoda. They still didn't know that Zhou Yunsong, who was almost a joke in their eyes and was labeled as a hindrance, was now catching up to them at an oppressive speed. This kind of aggressive and crushing momentum made some of the young cultivators who didn't participate in the Dharma assembly and were just watching the battle feel a great pressure, so much so that they felt suffocated. Although this Zhou Yunsong is strong, Big Brother might not be weaker than him. A young man from the Lei family murmured, "Big Brother can definitely defeat him. Definitely." He kept nagging until his brothers beside him became impatient. That's natural. Although this Zhou Yunsong is strong, Big Brother can definitely defeat him. This Dharma assembly held by Xianmen Tianzong will only be a stage for big young Master Jie. Although this was what he said, this Lei family disciple was more or less lacking in confidence. He looked at a figure in the light and shadow illusion as if this figure could give him confidence. It must be like this. Without Shirtiani, who else can cover up big young Master Jie's elegance among his peers? Ah. Shi Tianhao doesn't count. He is the direct disciple of the master of Xianmen. Naturally, he doesn't count. His children and nephews definitely can't compare to big young Master Jie. In the light and shadow illusion was a tall young man who looked to be in his 20s. Those with higher cultivation and better eyesight could see that this person's actual age was basically the same as his appearance. This young man had a handsome face and a determined expression. He walked alone in the Starry Sky Pagoda and didn't cooperate with anyone at all. Those in his group were left far behind and couldn't keep up with his speed. All the obstacles in the Starry Sky Pagoda and the roaring sun beasts were all taken care of by him. This was the eldest son of the Lei family, Lei Jie. Before Xianmen Tianzong, Shi Tianhao, and the others rose to power, he was recognized as a young prodigy who was second only to the dual-pupiled Shi Tianyi among his peers. Two roaring sun beasts pounced at him from behind. Lei Jie didn't stop or turn around. His body suddenly flashed with dazzling green lightning as if it was a web of electricity densely covering his body. The appearance of the lightning web was so sudden that it was already too late for the roaring sun beasts to dodge. The two roaring sun beasts were instantly charred by the green lightning. Lei Jie's pace was not the slightest bit erratic. He continued to move forward quickly, leaving behind two charred roaring sun beast corpses. Behind him, there were still many similar roaring sun beast corpses scattered around. In the All Heavens Palace, Qin Emperor Shi Yu watched this scene without saying anything. Dao Master Chang Li looked at Lei Lai, the head of the Lei family, and said, "The 9 True Thunder body is indeed extraordinary. The Lei family's dragon steed is truly worthy of its name." Lei Lai looked at Lei Jie in the Starry Sky Pagoda with a gratified expression. However, he still shook his head and said, "Dao Master Chang Lu is too kind. Lei Jie still has many shortcomings. He is arrogant because of his talent and lacks a lot of tempering. Please forgive him." Inside the pagoda, even though Lei Jie knew that the final result would be decided by the group, he still left his group behind and walked alone. The pride in his heart was self-evident. At the same time, in the central hall of the Cloud Peak, among the group of foundation disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, there was also a youth around the age of 15. His expression was calm as he stared at the high-spirited Lei Jie in the illusion of light and shadow. The foundation disciples around him glanced at him from time to time, their gazes shifting back and forth between him and Lei Jie. This was because the youth in front of them and the Lei Jie in the Starry Sky Pagoda were 70% to 80% similar in appearance. It was hard not to suspect the relationship between the two. The youth looked at Lei Jie for a long time before withdrawing his gaze. He nonchalantly looked at the others reflected in the illusion of light and shadow. Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, Lei Jie's gaze shifted. He vaguely felt something in his heart. He shook his head slightly and whispered to himself, "Even if you become a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, I will still be stronger than you. I will prove that I am the success and you are the failure." Chapter 678. In the All Heavens Palace on Jade Capital Mountain, Purple Cloud Dao Master Thundercloud calmly said to Lei Lai, "Fellow Lei, my previous proposal is still valid, what do you think?" Looking at Thundercloud and Lei family head Lei Lai, the expressions of the other primordial spirits all slightly changed. The Purple Cloud Dao Master Thundercloud controlled originated from the ancient Almighty Thunder Emperor. It inherited the 9 Thunder Dao, which was known as the strongest thunder technique in the world. It had always been regarded as the strongest thunder technique sect in the human world of the Divine Land. The Lei clan was also a clan that cultivated the thunder method. The Heavenly Thunder strategy, the clan's legacy, was also a top-notch thunder method in the vast land of the Divine Prefecture. However, it was undoubtedly inferior to the Purple Cloud path. If Lei Jie entered the Purple Cloud Dao Master's sect, he would undoubtedly obtain better development. Lei Lai slowly said, "I appreciate Dao Master Lei Yun's good intentions. I'm very grateful." The meaning behind his words was to reject Dao Master Lei Yun's suggestion. "Oh." Dao Master Thundercloud's eyes slightly flashed, his gaze swept across Zhu Hongguo, "So that's how it is, so you can obtain the Grand Emperor's orthodoxy. No wonder, no wonder." In the history of the Divine Land, the Thunder Emperor's orthodoxy could be said to be number one in thunder techniques. The founder of the Purple Cloud Dao Master Purple Cloud was the Thunder Emperor's eldest direct disciple, but he was unable to learn all of his master's abilities. The Purple Cloud Dao had been striving to recreate the complete 9 Thunder Dao. Apart from the Thunder Emperor's orthodoxy, the most famous thunder technique in the human cultivation world was the Grand Emperor's thunder technique. The Grand Emperor's magic power was profound and the Dao he cultivated was all-encompassing, including the great chaotic whole interior true thunder scripture. It was not inferior to the Dao techniques of the Purple Cloud Dao. After the Lei family had pledged allegiance to the great Zhou Empire, they had obtained this Dao technique. Not only did Lei Jia cultivate the great chaotic interior realm of the true Thunder Dao scripture, but he had also obtained the opportunity to cultivate other Dao techniques of the imperial orthodoxy. He had become a rising star that the great Zhou Empire had focused on cultivating. Lei Lai gave a clear answer. Dao Master Thundercloud could take it or let it go, so he no longer mentioned this matter and focused his attention back on the exchange. Inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, all life appeared in front of everyone. There were also people like Lei Jie who insisted on going alone, as well as people like Qin Xingyu, Su Yunsheng, and Ning Luoza. There were also a few groups that joined together to deal with one group. Yu Hongyan's Snow Gale Valley disciple, Ku Jing, and another mid-stage Foundation Establishment Realm disciple of the Qian Tian Palace weren't so lucky. One of them got into a conflict with another group, which resulted in several groups ganging up on Ku Jing and the other. The two of them were not judged to be eliminated, but they triggered the magic power restriction of the starlight circulating in the pagoda. They were directly transported from the 5th floor of the pagoda to the 2nd floor. Almost all their previous efforts were in vain, and the two of them wanted to cry but had no tears. As time passed, the distance between the different groups gradually widened. This did not mean that the lagging group was weaker. It was more due to the familiarity between the members of the group. Sometimes, luck was involved as well. Su Yunsheng's and Ning Rosa's groups and the Taishu Temple's Qin Xingyu's group were the two leading groups. With the two groups working together, they left everyone else behind. Only when they reached the 9th floor of the Starry Sky Pagoda did they part ways and search for their own paths. At this moment, it was time for them to compete for first place in the first stage of the spell assembly, to see who would be the first to reach the top of the 10th floor. At this time, Qin Xingyu and the others seemed to have run out of luck. One of their team members accidentally touched the flowing starlight restriction and fell from the 9th floor to the 7th floor. Everyone was caught off guard. In the All Heavens Great Hall, Lin Daohan and Yan Mingyue looked at each other and shook their heads. Someone in Qin Xingyu's group cursed, "What the hell is that guy doing? The flowing starlight restriction is so obvious, and no one attacked him. How did he step on it? What should we do? Go to the top of the pagoda and wait for him?" Another person frowned slightly. He was a cultivator from the Heavenly Sword sect called Kang Hai. He looked at Qin Xingyu and said, it would be fine if he was eliminated by the restrictions in the pagoda or someone from another group. But if he is still alive, it will take too much time for us to wait for him to come up. Qin Xingyu's eyes were like bright stars and his expression was calm. Let's go back and look for him. We are a group after all. The person who had started first growled, why do we care about that guy? Qin Xingyu said, helping others is helping ourselves. Although we are from different sects, we are still companions. There is no danger in today's spell assembly, but if we travel together in the future, we will definitely encounter all kinds of difficulties and obstacles. Kang Hai and the others thought for a while and nodded. They followed Qin Xingyu and stepped on the flowing starlight restriction. The four of them were sent back to the 7th level of the Starry Sky Pagoda. On the other side, Su Yunsheng and Ning Rosa's group successfully reached the top of the pagoda as the first place. Shi Tianhao was waiting for them at the top with a smile. Not bad, not bad. You are faster than I expected. He clapped his hands and 5 white jade stones floated in front of Su Yunsheng and the others. This is the exquisite jade heart. It is the reward for the first place in the first stage of this spell assembly. Everyone will get one. Keep it well. Su Yunsheng and the others received the exquisite jade heart and were overjoyed. The exquisite jade heart was a rare treasure. It could strengthen the connection between a cultivator and the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It was very beneficial for Foundation establishment cultivators. More importantly, when an early-stage gold core cultivator was accumulating magic power and preparing to face the Yin fire tribulation, the exquisite jade heart could help to nourish the magic power and increase the odds of success. It was even more beneficial for a cultivator to reach the intermediate stage of gold core and the realm of heavenly connection, where they could extract the spiritual energy they needed from the world. Ning Rosa put away the exquisite jade heart and asked, martial uncle, you said before that the faster we finish the first stage, the faster we can start the second stage. What is the content of the second stage? Do we still have to complete the second stage in groups? Shi Tianhao smiled and shook his head. The second stage is for you to participate as individuals and complete it independently. He waved his hand and a door of light appeared in the space beside him. Through the door of light, Su Yunsheng, Ying Rosa, and the others could see the scene on the other side. It was a completely independent world. There were many landscapes in this world. There were jungles, snowy plains, deserts, plains, and even oceans. Shi Tianhao made a grabbing motion and a beam of light suddenly flew out from the small world. It was a huge strange beast. It had a pair of wings on its back and was covered in the fur of a hedgehog. It looked like a cow and a tiger at the same time. It let out a cry that sounded like a dog's bark and kept struggling. Su Yunsheng and Ying Rosa had been in Xianmen Tianzong for many years and could be considered knowledgeable. When they saw this strange beast, they were stunned. Qiongqi. It was the Qiongqi demon race, one of the 4 ancient beasts along with Tao Wu. Different from the dark yang beast, which was born from Tao Wu's evil aura, the one in Shi Tianhao's hand was a pure-blooded Qiongqi. Its demonic power was suppressed by the small world it was in, and it was only at the demon general level, which was equivalent to a human's foundation establishment level. But even so, this Qiongqi's strength was extraordinary. Ordinary cultivators in the golden elixir period might not be able to do anything to it. The 4 ancient beasts each had extremely powerful innate magical abilities. The Taotai could swallow the heavens and the earth, the primal chaos could shatter the void, and the Tao Wu was stubborn and immortal, which was difficult to be injured by external forces. The Qiongqi demon race's innate magical ability was similar to the blood river true water. It was used to pollute people's dermic powers and plunder heaven and earth spirit qi. The flow of spirit qi in the small world opposite the light door was rather turbid and chaotic, which made people unhappy. The Qiongqi cub roared ferociously at Shi Tianhao. Back then, my race's leader did not kill you in the ancient desolate sea world. But one day, you will die under my race's 9 glory sky-shattering array. You will die under the claws of my Qiongqi race and become our food. Shi Tianhao said nonchalantly, forget it. If it wasn't for the fact that the taste is too bad, you would have already entered my stomach. The moment he said that, Su Yunsheng and Ying Rosa were a little speechless. Their little martial uncle was even more ferocious than the 4 ancient beasts. Shi Tianhao knocked the Qiongqi's head in his hand and smiled at Su Yunsheng and Ying Rosa. This is the Qiongqi that I, your master, and your 3rd martial uncle captured after sneaking into Infinite Wilderness Continent and raiding a gathering place of the Qiongqi demon race. It's a pity that there are no demon kings, only demon generals. He pointed at the world opposite the light door. Now, there are hundreds of Qiongqi in this world. There are core formation demon generals among them, but their strength has been suppressed to the demon general level. The second stage of the assembly is to hunt Qiongqi. There is a golden ring buried in each Qiongqi's body. Obtaining the golden rings is the final goal. Those who obtain 10 golden rings will automatically leave this world after 15 minutes, and the second stage will be considered completed. One thing to note is that Qiongqi is also protected by the Great Law Hall's magic power restriction. Once it is killed, it will disappear from this small world, and the golden rings will also disappear. Su Yunsheng and the others looked at each other. This was equivalent to asking them to capture Qiongqi alive. This way, the difficulty would increase by a lot. Shi Tianhao looked at the junior disciples in front of him and said unhurriedly, in the second stage, you can fight for each other's golden rings. This stage mainly tests your ability to deal with complex environments alone. Of course, you can also work together in private, but this is completely voluntary. However, in this small world, you can't use sound transmission crystals, nor can you use magic power to transmit sound over long distances. Furthermore, after entering the world through the light door, your location will be random. No one can be sure who is around you. Ying Rosa's eyes lit up and he turned to look at Su Yunsheng. Su Yunsheng also turned to look at him. Their eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Shi Tianhao said, one last point. Only the first 8 people who pass the second stage can participate in the third stage. Su Yunsheng and the others were stunned. Compared to the first stage, which only eliminated half of the participants, the second stage's elimination rate had greatly increased. There were 8 groups of people, and each group had at least 4 people. However, among the close to 40 people, only 8 people could participate in the third stage. The winners of the second stage will also be rewarded. The first place will be rewarded with a yuanying magic tool, Shi Tianhao continued. At the same time, the ranking in the second stage will also affect the third stage. Although the 5 of you have the advantage and entered the small world first, you might not be the last to laugh. You still have to work hard. Hearing about the yuanying magic tool, Su Yunsheng and the others held their breaths. Most of the participants were only in the foundation establishment stage. Ing Rosa did not say anything. He took the lead and rushed into the light door. Su Yunsheng and the others also did not want to be left behind and entered the light door together. In the All-Heaven Great Hall, Lin Feng watched this scene with a smile. He shook his head and turned to look at the other group in the Starry Sky Pagoda. He stared at a black-clothed young man and thought with interest, what kind of performance will you have? The young man had a valiant figure, and he stood upright like a sword. He seemed inconspicuous and ordinary, but he faintly possessed a unique imposing aura that was extremely profound. It was like a peerless divine blade that was hidden deep within a scabbard. It was Chu Yang, a disciple of the Beyond Sky Mountain. He was also participating in the Dharma exchange. However, he seemed very ordinary. He did not make any decisions in the group and only ascended the pagoda with the others. His speed was average. He did not fall behind, nor did he take the lead. Chapter 679. Chu Yang also participated in the Desolate Sea Dharma Assembly. However, his performance was mediocre and did not look outstanding. This was similar to his identity as a legacy disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain. Among the many factions that participated in the Dharma Assembly, Beyond Heaven Mountain could only be considered as the weakest. Chu Yang's performance was not bad. In fact, it was enough to make others look at him in a different light. After all, his cultivation was originally in the Golden Elixir period. Even after being suppressed to the foundation establishment stage, his performance was still not bad. However, it was only to the extent of not looking down on him. It was not to the extent of taking him seriously or being fearful of him. This was because the people in his group could be said to be crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Xianmen Tianzong's disciple, one of the most outstanding people in the previous competition. He was the Desolate Sky Valley's true disciple, Huang Zhenting. He was the rising star of the great Qin dynasty's imperial family. He was Qin Emperor Shi Yu's youngest daughter, Shi Jingyun. He was Xianmen Tianzong's earliest true disciple, Fen Tianya's true disciple, Yan Wuwei. Even the seemingly unremarkable Xiang Heng was an elite cultivator from the great Zhou dynasty. His cultivation had reached the middle stage of the Golden Elixir period. However, in the Starry Sky Pagoda, he was suppressed to the foundation establishment stage like Chu Yang. Honestly speaking, he was the one with the highest cultivation in this group. In fact, Xiang Heng was quite good at socializing. He was smooth and slick. With just a few words, Huang Zhenting, Shi Jingyun, and the others accepted him. Because he was the most experienced and had the highest cultivation, he even seemed to be the leader of the group. That junior brother of yours suddenly suffered qi deviation. Will he be fine? Xiang Heng asked Yan Wuwei and Huang Zhenting with concern as he guided everyone to carefully avoid a dangerous restriction. He was actually not very old. He had a round baby face and looked quite amiable when he smiled. Yan Wuwei sighed heavily. He will definitely be fine. However, it will definitely take up a lot of time. I'm afraid he won't have a chance in this Dharma assembly. It's a pity that he is fifth martial uncle's only disciple. Xiang Heng also said regretfully, yes, it's indeed a pity. However, why did he suddenly suffer qi deviation? Yan Wuwei curled his lips. Who knows? Junior brother Zhou rarely interacts with others. Even us seniors and juniors don't understand the situation. Huang Zhenting muttered, Senior brother Zhou, this isn't the first time. I've only seen him once before. Something flashed in the depths of Xiang Heng's eyes. Oh. That kid's cultivation of the Tao has gone astray, and he's a taciturn person. He won't say anything even if you hit him 3 times with a stick. I think he doesn't like to consult fifth martial uncle, and he's always blindly pondering by himself. Now he's suffering. Yan Wuwei laughed and turned around to block Xiang Heng's line of sight. He shook his head slightly at Huang Zhenting. Little Fatty was also gradually becoming an adult. He had left the mountains frequently to train in the past few years, and was much more mature than when he was young. Although he seemed to be joking and had a big mouth, he was no longer the blabbermouth of the past. In fact, he didn't notice Xiang Heng's strange behavior, but he felt that there was no need to tell an outsider about the affairs of his senior brother and junior brother. He could just fool him and be done with it. Therefore, even though he and Xiang Heng had been talking nonsense along the way, it was all nonsense. There wasn't any valuable information. Although a leopard could change its spots, and Yan Wuwei himself was very curious about Zhou Yunsong's situation, there was no need to show it in front of Xiang Heng. Chu Yang had always been submissive and obedient. He was just short of writing the words, professional to make up the numbers, on his forehead. But in fact, he had been secretly observing the people in his group and quickly made an analysis. Xiang Heng was slick and had some tricks up his sleeve, but he wasn't shrewd enough. He was too deliberate in befriending Huang Zhenting, Yan Wuwei, and the others. His words were intentionally or unintentionally trying to get information from Xianmen Tianzong. This person seemed to pay special attention to Zhou Yunsong. Perhaps he had some ulterior motives. Yan Wuwei was muddle-headed in small matters, but reliable in big matters. His cultivation was relatively weak, only in the middle stage of foundation establishment. He couldn't really be considered shrewd, but at least Chu Yang was confident that if it were Chu Yang trying to get information from him, he would be able to get it right. Huang Zhenting could be called a genius in cultivation, but his temperament wasn't stable enough, which was in line with his actual age. Shi Jingyun was the same. Speaking of which, she and Huang Zhenting were the same kind of people. Because of her background, she was more arrogant and willful than Huang Zhenting. Along the way, the only disharmonious factor in their group was these 2 problem children. The 2 of them seemed to be born at odds with each other. From the first moment they met, they couldn't see eye to eye with each other. Chu Yang, Yan Wuwei, and Xiang Heng had to deal with all kinds of problems in the Starry Sky Pagoda during the process of ascending the pagoda. They had to constantly appease and mediate the dispute between these 2 little devils, which gave the 3 of them a headache. The group finally reached the top of the pagoda with great difficulty and received their reward. After listening to Shi Tianhao's introduction of the rules of the second stage, Shi Jingyun immediately jumped to the side. She cast a sidelong glance at Huang Zhenting and snorted. Thank the previous emperors, I finally don't have to travel with a yellow-haired brat like you anymore. Huang Zhenting waved his fist at her and said, Yellow-haired brat, I should be the one saying this to you. Don't come crying to me after being snatched away by Cheong Qi. Shi Jingyun snorted and said, I wonder who was it that almost cried when facing the meteor shower just now. Yan Wuwei said helplessly, we've been arguing all the way here. Aren't the 2 of you annoyed? Huang Zhenting and Shi Jingyun turned their faces away at the same time, snorted, and walked towards the light door at the same time. Seeing each other's movements, they stopped at the same time and glared angrily at each other, refusing to give way. 2 brats. Yan Wuwei shook his head and entered the light door first. Chu Yang and Xiang Heng also entered the light door helplessly. Before Xiang Heng entered the light door, he turned his head and glanced behind him. It seemed like he was looking at Huang Zhenting and Shi Jingyun, but in fact, his gaze went past them and was looking at the Starry Sky Pagoda behind him. Inside the All Heavens Great Hall, Lin Feng and the others were also looking up and down at the Starry Sky Pagoda. At this time, it was already clear which 8 groups would advance to the second stage. The restrictions inside the Starry Sky Pagoda meant that if one wanted to climb up, they could only rely on the movement of the stars to climb up one level at a time. However, if they triggered the circulating starlight restriction and fell down, it was hard to say how many levels they would fall. The only factor that could change the ranking was mainly the circulating starlight restriction. However, the circulating starlight restriction was more obvious. Under most circumstances, if there was no interference from others, most people would be able to avoid it. Therefore, the situation was more or less clear. The last suspense was whether Zhou Yunsong's group could squeeze into the top 8. Zhou Yunsong and Zhao Huan both worked hard to catch up, and they had already surpassed a portion of the group. There was no need to say much about Zhou Yunsong's tyrannical strength, and Zhao Huan wasn't completely useless either. Although he was only in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, because of the void core in his body, the total amount of his transcendence energy far surpassed the average Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. However, in order to strengthen his foundation, he had to slow down the speed of his cultivation. At this moment, in the Starry Sky Pagoda, he and Zhou Yunsong worked together to move the moving stars up. In fact, the speed at which they moved up was not slow at all. It was comparable to the combined speed of many ordinary cultivators. This allowed them to quickly catch up with Zhu Yong's group of 3. Instantly, Zhu Yong's group's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. "Junior brother Zhou, we've already reached here. There's no need to rush. In the next stage, there might be individual freedom, or we might be regrouped. Wait until the second stage to settle the score with him." Zhao Huan stopped Zhou Yunsong and advised him. Zhou Yunsong did not stop at all. He closed in on Zhu Yong in a straight line with a cold gaze. Zhu Yong frowned slightly. The other party was able to catch up so quickly. Either his luck was extremely good, and he triggered some kind of restriction and instantly teleported up, or he really did have something extraordinary about him. The situation was unclear, so he could not make a decision for a moment. However, he was not afraid. He sneered and looked at Zhou Yunsong. If Zhou Yunsong dared to attack him, he would be more than happy. Zhao Huan grabbed Zhou Yunsong's arm and said in a deep voice, "Fifth Uncle Master only has you as his disciple. Your Nirvana Grotto Heaven is the only one participating in this spell assembly. If you can't even pass the first stage, Fifth Uncle Master is the one who has lost face." Hearing this, Zhou Yunsong stopped in his tracks. He only stared at Zhu Yong coldly. After a while, he turned around and nodded at Zhao Huan. He no longer paid attention to Zhu Yong and continued to walk forward alone, looking for a way to ascend the pagoda. Zhao Huan followed. The other two were a little bewildered and a little embarrassed. They hurriedly walked forward as well. Zhu Yong stared at Zhou Yunsong's back. His eyes gradually narrowed, and a cold light shot out. The last glance that Zhou Yunsong gave him actually made him feel a deep sense of danger. That feeling was like when he brushed shoulders with death on the white-hot battlefield. In the All-Heaven Hall, Yu Hongyan looked at this scene. He coldly glanced at Zhu Yong, then turned to Yang Qing and said, "Fifth junior brother, congratulations." Yang Qing smiled and said, "Yunsong is a child who looks cold on the outside but is warm on the inside. I have always known that." After a moment of silence, Wang Lin said softly, "In the eyes of those who have ulterior motives, this will become a point that can be used. There will always be people with dirty thoughts who like to stab the softest part of others' hearts." Yang Qing pursed her lips. Looking at her only disciple in the light and shadow illusion, she sighed. At the side, Xiao Yan suddenly snorted coldly, "Ha!" Wang Lin and the rest were slightly startled. Turning their heads to look, they saw that Xiao Yan is currently staring at a light and shadow illusion, but what is displayed is not the scene inside the Starry Sky Pagoda, but the small world used to hunt Xiongqi in the second stage. Wang Lin glanced at it and frowned slightly. His eyes turned cold. In the small world, on a cliff, a woman in purple was fighting with 5 Xiongqi. It was Li Xingfei. Below the cliff was an abyss. It was different from the usual terrain. The abyss was constantly spewing out lightning and fire. It was extremely dangerous. If a Foundation establishment cultivator fell down, he would definitely die. The battle strength of a pure-blooded Cheongqi was on a completely different level compared to the Sunyang beast. When 5 Cheongqi attacked together, it was even more ferocious. At this moment, a fat figure appeared not far away from the cliff. On his stupid fat face, a pair of small eyes narrowed into slits, emitting a cruel and vicious light. He stared at Li Xingfei and laughed. Chapter 680. The Sunless Beast was just a monster formed from Baiyan's evil aura, while Cheongqi was one of the 4 ancient beasts like Baiyan. Comparing the Sunless Beast to Cheongqi was like comparing heaven and earth. Moreover, Cheongqi's intelligence was undoubtedly much higher than the Sunless Beast's. At first, it didn't know why Li Xingfei and the others came in, but after Su Yunsheng and Li Xingfei and the others hunted some of them and took the golden rings, these fierce beasts immediately realized what was going on. Fuck, this bunch of immoral people from the celestial sect of wonders actually used them as prey for their disciples to gain experience. The golden rings that had been buried in their bodies earlier were the foreshadowing for today. Let's see who will hunt who. After realizing what was going on, the Cheongqi immediately began to move in groups. In order to increase the difficulty, Lin Feng and the others forbade Li Xingfei and the others to communicate with each other using sound transmission, but allowed Cheongqi to communicate with each other. In addition, the participating cultivators entered this small world one after another, and the landing spots were randomly scattered. Therefore, for a moment, the human cultivators were surrounded by a large number of Cheongqi. Some cultivators were besieged by many Cheongqi alone in this situation and received fatal attacks, triggering the restriction of the Hall of Spreading Law. In the end, they were eliminated and left the exchange. The spectators' hearts gradually tightened. At this moment, they realized that the second stage's elimination rate was greatly increased, and only the top 8 were allowed to advance to the third stage. In fact, a large part of the reason was that the second stage was much more difficult than the first stage. Li Xingfei was now being besieged by 5 Cheongqi beasts. She manipulated the true water of Yellow Spring to deal with the Cheongqi beasts. The true water of Yellow Spring was not afraid of the Cheongqi beasts' innate magical power, which made it easier for Li Xingfei to deal with the Cheongqi beasts than other cultivators. However, the difficulty was still not small, especially when Li Xingfei had to be careful of the abyss under the cliff. The violent thunder and fire that gushed out from there could even burn a cultivator of the golden elixir period to ashes in an instant. Li Xingfei calmly dealt with Cheongqi. She performed one of the 8 laws of heaven and earth. Streams of dark nether true water interweaved into a net in front of her, blocking Cheongqi's ink-like demonic power. However, the 5 Cheongqi attacked together and surrounded her. Her defeat was imminent. It's a pity that I can't get any of the 5 golden rings. Li Xingfei was in danger, but she remained calm and did not panic. Instead, she shook her head in pity. Cheongqi's nature was ferocious and ferocious. It was not easy to kill him, let alone capture him alive. However, Li Xingfei made a prompt decision. She clasped her palms together, and the power of Wang Lin's myriad heavens Tao scripture began to circulate rapidly. The violent and devastating aura of magic power spread out, as if it was the end of the world. The nether true water surrounded Li Xingfei, and like an erupting fountain, it spread out in all directions, destroying everything that dared to stand in its way. Even a ferocious beast like Cheongqi felt their heart palpitate, as if they were facing a terrifying catastrophe. Xianmen Tianzong's divine art, the last art of the 8 laws of heaven and earth, destruction of heaven and earth. Li Xingfei's violent magic power spread out, and the huge cliff under her feet was completely smashed into powder. The Cheongqi were all shocked, and they followed Li Xingfei and fell into the abyss of thunder and fire. It's not that easy to perish together. The 5 Cheongqi flapped their wings and flew up. Li Xingfei looked at them, and her lips curled into a smile. Perish together? Who would perish together with you? Her hands kept changing hand signs, and waves of magic power flew out, entangling the 5 Cheongqi above her head. Before the Cheongqi could react, one of the 8 laws of heaven and earth's divine art, overturning of heaven and earth, had already taken effect. The heaven and earth seemed to have flipped in an instant. The Qiong Qi that was originally above fell to the bottom, and the Li Xingfei that was originally below moved to the top of Qiong Qi's head. Li Xingfei's hands did not stop moving, and she activated her magic power. Another skyward warp, and the nether true water intertwined, turning into a huge net that covered the Qiong Qi's head. Then, an even more violent destruction of heaven and earth technique crashed down on the Qiong Qi's head. The true disciples of the celestial sect of Xian men who had been eliminated in the competition were also watching the process of the spell assembly in the VIP room of the spreading spell hall. Seeing this scene, Sun Xuer's mouth opened wide. Senior sister Li is so powerful. The other Xianmen Tianzong true disciples beside her nodded in unison. As the last of the 8 laws of heaven and earth, the destruction of heaven and earth technique was extremely powerful. It was the last trump card of most Xianmen Tianzong disciples, but it also consumed a lot of magic power. This technique was derived from the Hong formula of Shi Tianhao's black and yellow forward formula and Yang Qing's Taiyin Mountain flood incantation. It needed to explode the cultivator's magic power. Normally, when an ordinary disciple used the destruction of heaven and earth technique, they would run out of magic power. But now, not only did Li Xingfei use 2 destruction of heaven and earth techniques consecutively, but she also added overturning of heaven and earth and skyward warp in the middle, which almost went against the common sense of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples. Usually, when the 5 Qiongqi joined forces, Li Xingfei's skyward warp could not trap them. They could escape in all directions and escape from the net of netherworld real water. But when Li Xingfei used the 4 techniques consecutively, there was no gap. When the terrifying power of the destruction of heaven and earth technique came down, even the 5 Qiongqi had to be careful to deal with it. They had no spare energy to use skyward warp. Not to mention that the abyss thunder fire burst out from below, which made them even more distracted. In this way, not only could they not escape, but they were also pushed down by Li Xingfei. They were about to fall into the abyss. The 5 Qiongqi roared angrily, but only showed the despair of being at the end of the road. But at this moment, a gloomy voice suddenly sounded above Li Xingfei's head. "Hey, isn't this Xianmen Tianzong's disciple?" Li Xingfei frowned and looked up. She saw a plump young man staring at her with a pair of small, sinister eyes. It was Yang Likuan, the disciple of the reincarnation sect's heavenly Tao. The fat on his cheeks jiggled. "You ruined my plan. You didn't expect this, did you?" As he spoke, Yang Likuan smiled cruelly and made a hand seal. A red flame that looked like a lotus appeared in front of him and turned into red lotuses. The lotuses fell from the sky and floated towards Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's expression changed slightly. She had used the destruction of heaven and earth technique several times in a row. Even though she had a lot of resources, her arcane energy was running low. She could not suppress the 5 Qiongqi and deal with Yang Likuan at the same time. Left with no choice, Li Xingfei dodged to the side and avoided Yang Likuan's red lotus fire of karma. Li Xingfei could resist other techniques, but not the red lotus fire of karma. The red lotus fire of karma was a sure kill technique. It was fine if it did not touch the body, but once it did, it would burn the soul of the cultivator in an instant. Li Xingfei had to use her yellow spring water to suppress the Qiongqi, so she could not protect herself. She could only dodge the red lotus fire of karma. However, the Qiongqi below her were enraged. They almost fell into the abyss and were burned by the lightning fire. They were in great pain and roared, "Xianmen Tianzong's disciples, all of you deserve to die." As they roared, the 5 Qiongqi gave up on defending against the lightning fire and used all their demon energy to attack Li Xingfei. Above them, Yang Likuan did not hold back. He put his palms together and the red lotuses turned into a sea of fire. Then, the fire hit Li Xingfei like a storm. The heaven and earth overturning technique of the 8 laws of heaven and earth had a limited range. The red lotus fire of karma covered an area of more than 100 meters, so Li Xingfei could not change her position even if she wanted to. Inside the Hall of Spreading Law and the Hall on the Cloud Peak, the Xianmen Tianzong's disciples cursed, "How dare you join hands with the Qiongqi? can you be any more shameless? Li Xingfei took a deep breath and stared coldly at Yang Likuan with a gloomy expression. Yang Likuan laughed and said, "It feels good to break the undefeated legend of Xianmen Tianzong." As he spoke, his expression suddenly changed. He looked down and saw that Li Xingfei did not care about the Qiongqi's attack and the lightning fire from the abyss. The purple-clothed girl stared coldly at Yang Likuan and suddenly pointed her right index finger at him. Extreme Underworld Finger. An extremely dark black line shot straight at Yang Likuan. It cut through the red lotus fire of karma, like a knife cutting through tofu, and went straight for Yang Likuan. Yang Likuan let out a scream. In the nick of time, he moved his body to the side and narrowly avoided the black line, but it still pierced through his shoulder. You. Yang Likuan gritted his teeth and stared at Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's last attack had wounded Yang Likuan, but she was also hit by the Qiongqi's demon energy and lightning fire. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned pale. A few Qiongqi roared and wanted to tear Li Xingfei apart, but it was too late. The lightning fire from the abyss exploded and swallowed them all. The heavily injured Li Xingfei also fell down. Just as she was about to follow in the footsteps of the Qiongqi, a figure suddenly flashed by and used the escape art of Xianmen Tianzong's 8 great laws of heaven and earth to catch Li Xingfei's body. They flew out of the abyss and landed on the edge of the abyss. Li Xingfei looked up and saw a cold and indifferent face. It was a person she had heard of for a long time, but she did not have much contact with. The only true disciple of Xianmen Tianzong's Nirvana Wonderland, Zhou Yunsong. Zhou Yunsong put Li Xingfei down. Li Xingfei coughed lightly and spat out another mouthful of blood. Her injuries were too serious. Glancing at Li Xingfei, Zhou Yunsong suddenly turned around and stared at Yang Likuan coldly. Yang Likuan was currently suppressing the injuries caused by Li Xingfei. Seeing Zhou Yunsong looking at him, he sneered and said, "Your group actually managed to get into the top 8 and participate in the second stage? I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have, or you really have some skills. But that's not important. 1 is a fight, 2 is also a fight." While talking, Yang Likuan suddenly pointed his finger at the center of his eyebrows. A bright light flashed above his head, and a huge spirit formation rune floated in the air, releasing streams of white light that enveloped him. Chapter 681. In the All Heavens Hall, Shen Qifeng's expression was calm as he sighed. My disciple is mischievous. He actually joined hands with Qiongqi to attack Xianmen Tianzong's disciple. Such behavior has crossed the line too much. I am ashamed for not being a good disciple. Your sect can directly eliminate my disciple. This is the punishment he deserves. After I bring him back to the mountain, there will be more punishments. Wang Lin remained silent with a cold expression. His white hair fluttered behind him as he stared straight at Shen Qifeng. The group of primordial spirit experts in the hall looked at him and thought, although he is only in the middle stage of yuanying, his murderous nature is really strong. On the main seat, Lin Feng was calm. He lightly tapped his finger on the armrest of the seat. Immediately, everyone looked at Lin Feng. There is no need for that. Lin Feng said calmly, the second stage is to test the young people's ability to adapt independently. Since it is a test, then all kinds of situations can happen. It is part of the test to deal with unexpected situations. The group of primordial spirit experts nodded. The Master of Celestial Gate is magnanimous. That being said, the second stage of the spell assembly allowed cultivators to fight each other for the golden rings. However, although it was not explicitly forbidden to join hands with Qiongqi to attack other cultivators, the other participants of the spell assembly had a tacit understanding not to do so. Lin Daohan said, the Master of Celestial Gate is magnanimous. However, Dao Lord Tian Tan's disciples' actions are still inappropriate. It's okay. Lin Feng smiled faintly and looked at Shen Qifeng. Your disciple can continue to participate in the spell assembly until he is eliminated. If he passes the test and becomes the winner, he will receive all the rewards he deserves. I, Xianmen Tianzong, will not disqualify him. Shen Qifeng was not happy when he heard that. Instead, he was silent for a while and slowly nodded. "Thank you, Master of Celestial Gate." He turned to look at the illusion of light and shadow and sighed. Inside the spreading law hall, Yang Likuan looked at Zhou Yunsong and Li Xingfei with a slightly ferocious expression. He wanted to suppress the injuries caused by Li Xingfei but found that it was not so easy. The Yellow Springs water wrapped in the Yellow Springs water kept destroying his vitality and magic power. Even Yang Likuan, who was proficient in the reincarnation sect's secret techniques, had a headache. The Extreme Yellow Springs Finger was a powerful offensive spell that Wang Lin created after he created his own Mortal Forest Residence Dao technique, the Extreme Heaven's True Scripture. Although it was not as powerful as the Extreme Yellow Springs Finger that Wang Lin had comprehended from the 8 trigrams Great Dao Scripture, it was still very powerful. It was even stronger than the Yellow Springs Finger Divine Art that was derived from the Yellow Springs Nirvana technique. The Extreme Yellow Springs Finger could be considered a simplified version of the Universal Yellow Springs Finger's Nirvana Finger. Although it could not pass through the void and create a space of death to kill the opponent, it could fuse the chi of death with the Yellow Springs True Water. Its destructive power was astonishing, and the power was concentrated at a single point. Once the enemy was injured by the Extreme Yellow Springs Finger, they would be killed by the powerful chi of death and the Yellow Springs water even if it did not hit a vital point. Yang Likuan was in such a situation. After being hit by Li Xingfei's finger, he was in the same state as Li Xingfei and lost the ability to fight. However, he was still a rising star among the younger generation of the reincarnation sect's heavenly Dao. He was well versed in many secret techniques of the reincarnation sect. He pointed a finger at the space between his eyebrows. Spiritual light flashed above his head, and a huge spiritual rune appeared in the sky. The secret technique of the reincarnation sect, the Great Curse of 9 Deaths. Even though cultivators in the Golden Elixir period had their cultivation suppressed, they still had an advantage when competing with Foundation Establishment cultivators. It was not just a matter of experience. Many secret techniques and techniques that couldn't be mastered in the Foundation Establishment stage could be learned after advancing to the Golden Elixir period. Even though his cultivation was suppressed to the Foundation Establishment stage, he could use many profound techniques as long as he had enough magic power. The great spell of 9 Death Reincarnation was one of the most powerful spells of the reincarnation sect. Under the illumination of the white light, Yang Likuan's injuries healed rapidly. The rampaging chi of death in his body was completely eliminated, and the true water of the netherworld was also suppressed. Yang Likuan's face was abnormally red. He stared at Zhou Yunsong and Li Xingfei and laughed. "It's not long, but it's enough to finish you too." Inside the All-Heaven Palace, the Peach Blossom Fairy Yi Longbing, a nascent soul cultivator of the reincarnation sect, said slowly, "The Great Curse of 9 Deaths, hee, the Great Curse of 9 Deaths." This technique was a secret technique of the reincarnation sect. However, after the 6 paths of reincarnation split, only the heavenly path cultivators of the reincarnation sect knew how to use it. It was a life-saving technique for the reincarnation sect cultivators. As long as the user wasn't dead, once the technique was activated, even the most serious injuries could be healed quickly. Even the user's magic power would be restored to its peak, but it could only be maintained for a certain period of time. After a certain period of time, the user would fall into a state of certain death. There were only 2 ways to save the user. One was to consume the reincarnation sect's secret medicine, the elixir of life. The other was to have a higher cultivation level in the sect treat the user. Either way, the cultivator would be in a weak state for a long period of time even if they could survive. The purpose of this technique was to help the reincarnation sect cultivators get out of a dangerous situation. They could either kill the enemy or have the strength to escape. Yang Qing stared at Yang Likuan in the light and shadow illusion for a while, then turned to look at Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw him looking at him, he smiled and didn't say anything. Seeing this, Yang Qing looked at Zhou Yunsong and called out, "Yunsong." The Dharma restriction spell of Hongfa Hall had been modified. If Shen Qifeng and the others wanted to use Dharma voice transmission, they had to get permission from Lin Feng. However, if Xiao Yan, Yang Qing, and the others wanted to use Dharma voice transmission, they could enter unimpeded. When Zhou Yunsong heard Yang Qing's voice, he tilted his head slightly. Yang Qing said calmly, "In this battle, I allow you to use the Burning Sun Vitality Shattering Technique." Hearing Yang Qing's words, Zhou Yunsong's breath paused for a moment, then returned to normal. However, his gaze toward Yang Likuan became even colder. Yang Qing didn't hide his words from the others. The group of Essence Soul Realm cultivators looked at him curiously. The bad feeling in Shen Qifeng's heart grew stronger. In the next moment, Zhou Yunsong suddenly moved. A dazzling golden light erupted from his body, making him look like he had turned into a golden sun. He pounced toward Yang Likuan. True Sun Fire. Yang Likuan laughed sinisterly and clapped his palms. The red lotus karmic fire scattered and flew toward Zhou Yunsong without hesitation. But in the next moment, Yang Likuan's chubby face began to twitch. He suddenly discovered that the golden sun true fire around Zhou Yunsong in front of him had suddenly been completely annihilated, disappearing without a trace, replaced by black smoke. It was as if the blazing sun in the sky had suddenly fallen into a solar eclipse. It was dark and ferocious. What caused Yang Likuan's heart to race was that the black smoke around Zhou Yunsong was growing thicker and thicker. In the end, it was as black as ink, and the originally smoke-like gas was gradually condensing into a stream of black light. In the All-Heaven Great Hall, the group of Essence Soul Realm cultivators' gazes moved slightly. The black smoke earlier was the burning sun chi that was produced after Zhou Yunsong's true sun fire was completely incinerated. Its destructive power was shocking. However, the black light now was a further transformation of the burning sun chi. Burning Sun Vitality Destruction Chi. Zhou Yunsong waved his hand casually. Where the black light passed, Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire immediately vanished into thin air. The dark red fire lotuses were like fallen flowers that were blown away by the wind and rain. They instantly withered and turned into dust. Yang Likuan's fat face was filled with horror. He was anxious and angry. What did you do? Fatty's small eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was shocked to find that Zhou Yunsong's burning sun vitality destruction chi not only destroyed the red lotus karmic fire that he released, but it also damaged his origin the moment it came into contact with the red lotus karmic fire. The red lotus karmic fire that was destroyed was truly annihilated, completely destroyed. The amount of red lotus karmic fire that Yang Likuan had painstakingly refined was also lost. Years of hard work had been wasted by Zhou Yunsong in a single day. When the blazing Yang Yuan Qi shattering Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire was completely incinerated, Yang Likuan's lips trembled and he couldn't speak. The red lotus karmic fire divine art that he had painstakingly cultivated was actually crippled by Zhou Yunsong. From now on, if Yang Likuan didn't die, he would have to start from scratch if he wanted to control the red lotus karmic fire again. He had painstakingly cultivated for so many years, and now he was back to square one. How is this possible? Yang Likuan's entire body trembled. He couldn't understand how Zhou Yunsong's burning sun vitality destruction chi could be so domineering that it could completely destroy his supernatural power by burning away his external red lotus karmic fire. What was even more terrifying was that Zhou Yunsong didn't stop. After destroying Yang Likuan's red lotus karmic fire, he was already close to him. He stretched out his right hand, and as the black light flowed, he grabbed Yang Likuan's fat neck and lifted him into the air. The terrifying burning sun vitality destruction chi was activated. Yang Likuan instantly felt as if his internal organs were on fire. His supernatural power was being incinerated by the black light. Stop! Yang Likuan screamed. He suddenly realized that not only was his supernatural power being destroyed by the black light, but his yang qi was also being incinerated by the burning sun vitality destruction qi. With the yang qi dissipated, the balance between yin and yang in the human body was completely destroyed. Not only would Yang Likuan's cultivation be destroyed, but the strength of his divine soul would also weaken. His meridians would wither, and the blood in his body would deteriorate. His connection with the Tao of heaven and earth would also be blocked. And so on and so forth. When that time came, it would be extremely difficult for him to cultivate again. He was considered a talented person in the reincarnation sect, but after the effects of the burning sun vitality destruction chi, his innate talent was equivalent to being half-crippled. Yang Likuan's heart trembled. He looked at Zhou Yunsong in fear, and he suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The black light enveloped Zhou Yunsong's body. Only his eyes could be clearly seen in the pitch-black light. Yang Likuan shuddered. What kind of eyes were those? A pair of eyes that were as cold and gloomy as the clouds of calamity descended from the sky, but also seemed to be burning with a monstrous fire. What kind of demon did I provoke? This guy isn't human. He's like a beast that just got out of its cage. At this moment of life and death, Yang Likuan unleashed all of his potential. He shouted, "Reincarnation of all living beings, the heavenly Tao is immortal." His entire body suddenly emitted an immortal and indestructible aura. All of his remaining spiritual power and spiritual chi exploded, and even his divine soul seemed to be ignited. He gathered all of his cultivation and turned it into a divine light to protect himself. Chapter 682. In the small world, there was an abyss where thunder and fire were constantly erupting. At the edge of the abyss, a colorful light pillar shot up into the sky. Reincarnation sect's secret technique, the immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao. The immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao was one of the top techniques in the entire reincarnation sect. It contained the concept of watching all living beings enter the cycle of reincarnation and being immortal and limitless. But at this moment, this resplendent light was being suppressed by the masses of black light and was constantly being whittled away. Zhou Yunsong's blazing sun energy shattering was extremely tyrannical, madly burning everything in front of it. Even a great divine ability like the immortal heavenly divine light was constantly being pushed back. Furthermore, just like the powerful karmic fire of the Red Lotus, Yang Likuan could clearly feel that the foundation of his immortal divine light of the heavenly Tao was on the verge of collapse. If it continued to develop, this technique would also be destroyed by the burning sun break. In the Great Law Hall, all the cultivators watching the battle held their breaths. Even the Yuanying stage patriarchs looked at Zhou Yunsong with solemn expressions. Right now, Zhou Yunsong, who was in the foundation establishment stage, was still powerless to threaten them. Although the burning sun-shattering energy was peerlessly ferocious, it still had its limits, and it increased along with Zhou Yunsong's cultivation. However, what would happen when Zhou Yunsong formed his gold core or even formed his nascent soul? Just thinking about it made many people's scalps tingle. In the All-Heaven Hall, the group of primordial spirit realm experts also watched this scene with interest. Venerable Sword Emerald Wave turned to Lei Lai, the head of the Lei family. Cultivators who mainly cultivate Yang Qi will most likely die if they encounter Zhou Yunsong at the same cultivation realm. Slowly, Lei Lai nodded. Burning sun break Tao, breaking the primordial shattering void. It is indeed overbearing and vicious. Yan Mingyue turned to Lin Daohan and smiled. When we go back, we must tell Marshal Uncle Kwang and the others that Run Feng is only one cultivation realm higher than Zhou Yunsong. We must not have any conflict with him. Among the young cultivators cultivated by the radical faction of the Taishu Temple, there was a man named Ding Runfeng. He had even fought with Yu Hongyan, Li Yuanfang, Luo Qinggu, and other disciples of Xianmen Tianzong in West Hill City with Bai Shiqian. This man was born with a pure yang body and cultivated the pure yang profound heart technique. It complemented each other and allowed him to develop his advantages to the maximum. His magical power were far beyond that of ordinary cultivators. Even in a place like the Taishu Temple where geniuses gathered, he was still one of the best in the same cultivation realm. Unfortunately, Zhou Yunsong's burning sun body and burning sun break primordial qi were his nemesis. At the same cultivation realm, it would be easier for Zhou Yunsong to fight against Ding Runfeng than for him to fight against Yang Likuan. Lin Daohan said lightly, after West Hill City, Junior Marshal Brother Ding has also matured a lot. Yan Mingyue smiled. Then, she turned to look at Yang Qing in Xianmen Tianzong's camp. She stopped smiling and said seriously, "Fellow Yang is indeed a good teacher. Under your guidance, this young friend Zhou Yunsong has perfectly dug out his innate advantages without any waste." Yang Qing cupped one hand in the other before his chest. "Fairy Yan, you flatter me. Yunsong can become what he is today because of his hard work. I don't dare to take credit for it." While everyone was talking, in the small world, Zhou Yunsong's burning sun break primordial qi was almost burning Yang Likuan's divine light of the heavenly path. Under the protection of the divine light of the heavenly path, Yang Likuan could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But seeing that the divine light was about to break and misfortune was approaching, Yang Likuan had a feeling of sitting and waiting for death. A struggling expression appeared on his fat face. After a little hesitation, he seemed to have made up his mind. A vicious light flashed in his small eyes. "You actually want to completely destroy me. How can I let you do that?" Yang Likuan shouted in a low voice, "I want to thank your Xianmen Heavenly Sect's Great Law Hall's magic power defense. At first, I felt that I couldn't really kill people, it was really not good, but now it just happened to help me. Brat, this isn't over. Don't let me see you after we leave Kunlun Mountain. Otherwise, when I recover my cultivation during my golden elixir period, I'll definitely make you wish you were dead." After saying that, Yang Likuan directly flipped his palm and wrapped it with magic power. He smashed it toward the top of his own head. He actually wanted to end his own life and use this to trigger the defensive restriction of Hongfa Hall. Then, he would be judged to be out of the game and sent out of this small world. Thus, he would be interrupted by Zhou Yunsong's burning sun break primordial qi destroying his magic power. Yang Likuan was ruthless to others, but he was also ruthless to himself. Not to mention being eliminated from the game and being eliminated by the Dharma Assembly, it still required a lot of determination and courage to kill himself, even if he knew that there was a protective restriction of magic power. Zhou Yunsong noticed Yang Likuan's actions and the light in his eyes became even colder. His right hand grabbed Yang Likuan and his left hand made a fist in the air. Endless black light quickly condensed in his left hand and turned into a huge black ball of light. That black ball of light continued to compress and condense the tyrannical power of the burning sun break primordial qi. It faintly produced a terrifying feeling that it was about to explode, as if a star was about to collapse. Burning sun break primordial qi, eternal yang heavenly explosion. Yang Likuan's eyes widened and he looked at this scene in horror. In front of this opponent, don't talk about survival, could it be that even if he wanted to die, it was not up to him? The terrifying black ball of light bombarded the immortal heavenly light that was already on the verge of collapse and directly shattered the light pillar. Endless black light exploded and scattered, bombarding Yang Likuan's body. One after another, the burning sun break primordial qi detonated all the yang qi in Yang Likuan's body. Yang Likuan let out a blood-curdling scream. The palm that he had just raised was suddenly unable to condense any magic power. It was all burned by the burning sun break primordial qi. Zhou Yunsong's last attack, while burning the yang qi and magic power around Yang Likuan's body, it also triggered the restriction of Hongfa Hall's magic power. It saved Yang Likuan's little life, but his cultivation was almost completely destroyed. The Hongfa Hall was silent for a long time. Then, as if a pot of boiling water, the cultivators of various forces were discussing spiritedly. This Zhou Yunsong's cultivation is very high, and his method is very ruthless. Xianmen Tianzong and the other disciples cheered in unison, beautiful. To deal with such a vicious and ruthless person, one should give him a taste of his own medicine. The true disciples looked at each other and said, I didn't know that junior brother Zhou was actually so strong. This is really a case of shocking the world with a single brilliant feat, compared to the bustling Hongfa Hall and the central hall of the Cloud Peak, the All Heavens Great Hall was much calmer. Shen Qifeng calmly looked at the light and shadow illusion. After a long time, he sighed and said, this is also fate. The atmosphere in the All Heavens Great Hall was a bit strange. Lin Daohan and the others looked at Lin Feng, but Lin Feng calmly looked at Shen Qifeng and thought, this is the result you want to see? Lin Feng laughed in his heart, Interesting, I find it more and more interesting. Yang Likuan's life was saved by the Hongfa Hall, but his cultivation was destroyed. The golden elixir was dark and withered, it was covered with dense cracks like a spider web. Without the Hongfa Hall suppressing his cultivation, if he could use his golden elixir, there was a possibility that he could create magic power again. But Zhou Yunsong's attack not only destroyed his magic power and golden elixir, but also destroyed the yang qi in his body. The balance of yin and yang completely collapsed, he could not even use the golden elixir. The reincarnation sect's direct disciple of the heavenly Tao, a rising star, was almost completely destroyed. There was little hope for him to recover. This was also the biggest evil incident since the beginning of the assembly. The consequences were more serious than Yang Likuan's karmic fire of the Red Lotus to torture Lu Hang. Because of Li Xingfei's interference, Lu Hang's spirit was seriously damaged, but there was a possibility of recovery. Yang Likuan was worse off than him. The atmosphere in the All Heavens Great Hall was a bit strange. Normally, Xianmen Tianzong held this assembly to exchange pointers, so the atmosphere was generally friendly and friendly. Such evil incidents were generally prohibited. But as the victim, Tao Master Tian Tan, Shen Qifeng, did not intend to pursue the matter. Although Yang Likuan had brought this upon himself, Shen Qifeng's calm performance was still unexpected. After all, Yang Likuan was his direct disciple. The reincarnation sect, especially the heavenly Tao of the reincarnation sect, had always been extremely protective and domineering. Most of the time, they did not even give face to the Taishu Temple and the Mount Shu Sword sect. They did not necessarily have to do anything to Zhou Yunsong, but after causing such a big incident, disqualifying him from participating in the assembly was the minimum punishment. What made the other big shots even more surprised was that Xianmen Tianzong also maintained silence, as if nothing had happened. They had an attitude of not pursuing the matter unless the people complained. Yan Mingyue's gaze moved between Lin Feng and Shen Qifeng, looking at the deeds of the Xian Gate's master Lin Feng since his debut. Even though he is overbearing and protective of his own, and has a tough style of doing things, but he rarely makes trouble for no reason. Apart from the Battle of Kunlun Mountain where he was not honorable when plotting the exchange between the Golden Crow Great Sage and the Wind God sect, his actions at other times are still justifiable. His actions this time are a little confusing. Yan Mingyue looked at Lin Feng and Shen Qifeng. There seems to be some kind of tacit understanding between the two of them. As Yan Mingyue thought about it, she turned to look at her senior brother, Lin Daohan. She saw that Lin Daohan's eyes were shining, which was rare. Eldest senior brother. Yan Mingyue was slightly stunned. Lin Daohan noticed her gaze and turned back. Silently, he used his transcendence energy to transmit his voice. There may be big changes in the reincarnation sect in a short period of time. Be careful. Yan Mingyue pondered over Lin Daohan's words and slowly nodded. At this time, Lin Feng's attention once again fell on the illusion of light and shadow. There, on a hill far away from the abyss where Zhou Yunsong and Yang Likuan had fought, stood a black-robed youth. He was looking from afar and had also watched the entire battle. It was Chu Yang. What a powerful and incisive divine power. Xianmen Tianzong is indeed a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There are talents in every generation. Chu Yang nodded and praised. However, this divine power should have its shortcomings. It's a pity that the fatty from the reincarnation sect was defeated too quickly. I couldn't see anything else. Other than the limited range of the attack and the need to get close to the opponent, I don't know if there are any other flaws with the black light divine power. Chu Yang carefully observed and saw that after Yang Likuan triggered the restriction, he had left behind 3 golden rings. They were obtained by Yang Likuan when he hunted Qiongqi. After a cultivator is eliminated, if he has a golden ring on him, will it be left in the small world where he died? Chu Yang rubbed his chin. As he thought about it, he played with a golden ring in his hand. Chapter 683. Inside the small world, seeing Yang Likuan trigger the mana restriction, the black light on Zhou Yunsong's body gradually dissipated. He turned around and walked in front of Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei's face was pale, but she was still in good spirits. She looked at Zhou Yunsong and sighed. Su Yunsheng and Ing Luozha are going to suffer a big blow. Junior apprentice brother Zhou, I really didn't expect you to be so strong. I never knew before. Zhou Yunsong was silent for a while and said, I can't fight you guys. Li Xingfei nodded, yes, even with the mana restriction of Great Law Hall to protect your life, if you fight with us, it will burn our magic power. I'm afraid only senior apprentice sister Yuding can fight with you without suppressing her cultivation. Zhou Yunsong looked at the top of Li Xingfei's head. There was a golden light floating above her head. There was a number written on the golden light, 4. This golden light wasn't from Li Xingfei herself. It was a projection of Great Law Hall's mana. When Li Xingfei fought Cheong Qi, when she fought Yang Likuan, and when she was trapped in the abyss of lightning fire in the small world, the number didn't change. Above Zhou Yunsong's head, a golden light condensed into a number, 1, Yang Likuan just now had a golden light above his head, 3. This golden light represented the number of golden rings in each person's hand. Everyone in the small world could see it. Li Xingfei already had 4 golden rings. Yang Likuan had 3. Zhou Yunsong only had 1 golden ring because he had just entered the small world. He turned back to look at the spot where Yang Likuan had disappeared. The 3 golden bangles landed quietly on the ground. Zhou Yunsong grabbed them, and the golden number above his head turned into 4. Zhou Yunsong handed the 3 golden rings to Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei shook her head and took out her 4 golden rings for Zhou Yunsong. My injuries are very serious. Out of Master's Ultimate Celestial Path scripture, I've only cultivated the power of nirvanic extermination and not the power of creation. This has caused my recovery to be very slow. Even consuming medicinal pills can only temporarily stabilize my injuries. Zhou Yunsong turned his palm and a green stream of water appeared. This was the lunar true water, best at healing injured bodies and souls. However, his lunar true water was relatively weak. It would take a long time for it to be effective. Li Xingfei waved her hand, junior apprentice brother Zhou, there's no need. Only the top 8 of the 2nd stage can advance to the 3rd stage. Don't waste time because of me. Other than my injuries, my mana is also severely used. Other than taking medicinal pills to recover, I can't reach my peak condition. It will be very difficult. Even if I manage to enter the 3rd stage by luck, I might not be able to defeat the cultivators from other sections. It would be a waste of our sect's reputation. I might as well help you. She smiled faintly, even that fatty can make a prompt decision, why can't I? Then, she endured the pain all over her body and summoned her remaining mana. She pointed a finger at the space between her eyebrows, and she died instantly. The Great Law Hall's spell was activated, instantly protecting her life and sending her out of the small world. Zhou Yunsong watched as Li Xingfei disappeared. After a moment of silence, he silently put away Li Xingfei's 4 golden rings. The golden number above his head turned into 8. Inside the All-Heaven Grand Hall, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others smiled. In the face of danger, she was calm, strong, and had the ability to kill 5 Cheongqi beasts. Even when Yang Likuan ambushed her, she could still maintain her composure and find a chance to counterattack and severely injure Yang Likuan. Now, she could decisively sacrifice herself to help her fellow sect member. Li Xingfei's performance made Xiao Yan and the others nod their heads. Wang Lin's expression was calm. He stood up and said, I'll go take a look at her. Her injuries cannot be delayed. The Great Law Hall's spell could only protect her life. Her previous injuries were still there. Lin Feng smiled faintly and did not say anything. He sat on the main seat and continued to watch the scene in the light and shadow illusion. The fight for the golden rings had gradually become white-hot. As the first 8 groups of cultivators in the 1st stage all entered the small world, Cheongqi's life became more and more difficult. A large number of Cheongqi were either killed or killed after their golden rings were taken. The number of Cheongqi in the small world decreased, and most of the golden rings were transferred to the cultivators who were participating in the spell assembly. More and more fights broke out among the cultivators. Generally speaking, everyone was taking advantage of each other's location. No one was like Yang Likuan, who teamed up with Cheongqi to fight against the human cultivators. The group of Yuanshan elders carefully watched the process of the spell assembly and gradually found a problem. There were originally more than 100 Cheongqi in the small world, and naturally, more than 100 golden rings. Only the first 8 winners of the second stage could advance to the third stage, and a total of 80 golden rings were needed. However, because Cheongqi was killed first, it would be sent out of the small world along with the golden rings. Therefore, the number of golden rings that the cultivators who participated in the spell assembly could obtain was actually far from that many. Li Xingfei had just wasted 5 golden rings. If Cheongqi was not captured alive and killed directly, the golden rings would disappear. When other cultivators were killed, the golden rings would remain in place. After realizing this, more and more people began to target other cultivators. The golden numbers above everyone's heads were like signboards. The bigger the number, the easier it was for others to covet it. Chu Yang stood on the hill and looked up at the number 1 above his head. After thinking for a while, he took out a small storage bag. This type of storage bag was specially made to prevent the aura of spiritual items from leaking out. It was originally the best tool for gathering spiritual herbs. After Chu Yang placed the golden rings inside, they had the same effect. The aura emitted by the golden rings was actually very weak. Only the mana restriction of the Hall of Spreading Law could sense it. It was very difficult for Foundation establishment cultivators to detect it. Now that it was stored in this special storage bag, not even a bit of spiritual energy leaked out. However, when Chu Yang held the golden rings, the golden numbers above his head were still there. Chu Yang looked around. There were strange rocks on the hill that were strangely shaped like a person's palm. They were very eye-catching and were perfect for making marks. After carefully sensing his surroundings and confirming that no one was paying attention to him, Chu Yang buried the storage bag with the golden rings under the strange rocks. After leaving Chu Yang's body, the golden numbers above Chu Yang's head instantly disappeared. He nodded in satisfaction and jumped down the hill. Chu Yang walked between the mountains and rivers. Suddenly, his eyes flashed slightly. However, he did not stop and continued to walk forward. Just now, he faintly felt that there was someone lying in ambush in this area. However, Chu Yang did not show any abnormalities. Even if there was an ambush, it wouldn't be him. There was no golden number above his head, indicating that he did not have the golden rings. There were no enemies among the cultivators participating in the spell gathering, so there was no way the ambush would be wasted on him. As expected, Chu Yang's path was calm. The hidden ambush did not move at all and completely ignored Chu Yang. However, Chu Yang was not someone to be trifled with. After walking for a while, he took a deep breath. Within the golden elixir inside his body, a shadow lightly trembled and a faint light poured out from his golden elixir. This light shone on Chu Yang's body from the inside out. Chu Yang's aura suddenly changed and in the next moment, his figure disappeared. In reality, Chu Yang did not truly disappear, nor did he hunch his body to find a place to hide. He simply stood there leisurely, causing others to involuntarily ignore his existence. It was as if he was standing there without anything. This was because he had almost perfectly merged with the outside world. When others saw his figure, it was no different from seeing the mountains and grass. This was why they felt as if Chu Yang had disappeared. Naturally, this method could not be hidden from those with high cultivation. However, the majority of Foundation establishment cultivators were unable to detect him. Even some golden elixir period cultivators might not be able to detect him. If Chu Yang left the Spreading Law Hall's magic power suppression, then even golden elixir stage cultivators would not be able to detect him. Chu Yang leisurely returned to the ambush spot that the others had set up, and just waited there leisurely. Very quickly, his targets arrived. They were 2 dragon shadows. One was a young man and the other was a young girl. They were the Qin dynasty's Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun. golden numbers floated above their heads. One was 5 and the other was 4. Clearly, they had gained a lot. However, just as they stepped into the area, a change occurred. Waves of light soared into the sky and turned into a huge spell formation, trapping the two of them. A figure appeared in the spell formation. He wore a white robe with a white cloud embroidered on the lapel. His appearance was handsome. Although he was a man, he had a pair of phoenix eyes. Seeing him, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun slightly frowned. They recognized him as a young cultivator from the Taishu temple like Qin Xingyu. His name was Fan Xiefeng and his performance was extremely outstanding. He was in the same group as Su Yunsheng and Ing Luoza, the first group of cultivators to enter the small world. The golden number above his head was a large 7, indicating that he was in the lead in the second stage. His performance was not bad. At this moment, he was in a flag formation. 7 different colored flags fluttered in the wind, supporting a powerful formation. The Dharma assembly prohibited the use of magic tools. Everything depended on one's own magic power. The only 2 exceptions were sword cultivators and formation cultivators. Sword cultivators' cultivation was all on their swords, so it was naturally impossible to prohibit them. Formation cultivators also needed magic tools to set up formations, so the Dharma assembly allowed them to use magic tools. To be fair, when other cultivators fought with sword cultivators and formation cultivators, they could also use their own magic tools. However, their strength was limited to the foundation establishment stage and could not reach the golden elixir period. Fan Xiefeng's spell formation opened, and 7 colored clouds surrounded Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun, trapping them. Although they were ambushed and the other party used the formation to gain the geographical advantage, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun were also extraordinary as the rising stars that the great Qin dynasty had carefully nurtured. Shi Shaoqian formed hand seals with both hands, and 2 light dragons, one red and one yellow, revolved around him. They were the true teachings of the Red Dragon Imperial Book and the Yellow Dragon Imperial Book. Compared to the time at the Desolate Sea Assembly, Shi Shaoqian's strength had also increased greatly. It was not just his core formation. He clapped his hands, and a green light dragon appeared in the air. It was the manifestation of the Green Dragon Emperor's book. Cousin, you don't have to do this. You were injured before, so you can just use the red and yellow dragons. As Shi Jingyun spoke, light also shone around him. It was the green, black, and white light dragons. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. I remember that her true cultivation is at the late stage of foundation establishment. She has actually cultivated 3 of the 5 Emperor's true dragons' inheritances. Chapter 684. In the past, on the North Wind Sea, Shi Shaoqian was in the late foundation establishment realm. At the same time, he also cultivated the 5 Emperor's true dragon scriptures, the Red Dragon scriptures and the Yellow Dragon scriptures, which showed his great talent in Tao. Later on, Shi Xingyun was in the late Golden Elixir realm. The 5 colored light dragons flew together, the 5 elements were born, and the Dharma was infinite. Now that Shi Jingyun was in the late foundation establishment realm, she revealed the Green Dragon scriptures, the Black Dragon scriptures, and the White Dragon scriptures at the same time. Her talent was even more amazing than Shi Shaoqian's when they were in the same realm. People could vaguely see the shadow of Shi Xingyun in her. In the Celestial Hall, the group of Primordial Divinity Realm big shots watched the scene with interest. Those who were close to Emperor Qin congratulated him. Xiao Yan slightly tilted his head, using his mana to transmit to the group of junior brothers and sisters beside him. Senior Stonefeather's standard of giving birth to a daughter is really not bad. It's just that the standard of giving birth to a son is a little lacking. There's only one Shi Chongyun and he's still a repulsive person. Zhu Yi and the others smiled. Zhu Yi pointed at Xiao Yan and said with a smile, "Eldest senior brother, your mouth is too unkind." Xiao Yan snickered, "Since I've done it, I'll say it. This isn't me being sarcastic." In the small world, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun's mana connected into one. The heads and tails of the 5 colored light dragons white, green, black, yellow, and red connected, turning into a 5-colored halo. The 5 elements were born, and it grew stronger and stronger. This joint attack made the cultivators from other forces look at it in a different light. Even the group of primordial divinity realm big shots paid attention to it. This was a supernatural power that the Qin dynasty had never shown before. It must have been newly developed in recent years. Now that it was revealed, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Dao Master Chang'e smiled and said, "There are still many things I haven't mastered yet. Please don't be stingy with your advice." Just as he had said, the 5 elemental light dragon formed by Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun was far inferior to Shi Xingyun's perfect rotation, but it was still quite extraordinary. The crown prince of the Zhou dynasty, Liang'an, and Marquis Jing Huan were sitting in separate rooms in the Hall of Spreading Law. When they saw this, they sat up slightly and nodded in unison. They thought to themselves, the great Qin dynasty has indeed made further improvements to their 5 Emperor True Dragon secret arts and techniques, and they have achieved the desired results. The circle of light continued to expand, opposing the Taishu Temple Fan Xiufeng's formation. There were many limitations to the formation, but as long as the formation was completed and the formation was activated, its power would always be outstanding among the divine abilities and Dharma spells of the same level. Fan Xiufeng was fighting 1 against 2, but he did not seem to be at a disadvantage. Inside the All Heavens Grand Hall, Yu Hongyan turned to look at Li Yuanfang and asked, "Sixth junior brother, I heard that the Taishu Temple has a top-tier array formation called the 7 Lights Defense Formation." "There is indeed such a array formation." Li Yuanfang nodded his head and said, "After the Grand Supreme Void Yin-Yang Formation, it is the second strongest array formation in the Taishu Temple. In the Divine Land, other than a few great mountain guarding arrays, this 7 Lights Defense Formation can be said to be a top-tier existence, comparable to the 6 Meridians Heavenly Immortal Sword Formation." At this point, Li Yuanfang changed the topic and said, "However, the array formation that this person set up is not the complete 7 Lights Defense Formation. Not only is the quality of the array formation not up to standard, the array formation itself is a simplified version. Its power is not even a fraction of the 7 Lights Defense Formation. There are many parts of the array formation that are difficult to understand, and there are some parts that are not well understood. The worst thing is that there are 2 patterns that are completely wrong. This is the first time I have seen this array formation, so I was not sure at first. Now that I have looked at it for a while, I can finally confirm that there are 2 patterns in the southeast that are wrong." Xiao Yan looked at Yu Hongyan and said with a smile, "Fortunately, you used Transcendence Sound Transmission to talk to him." Because Yu Hongyan used Transcendence Sound Transmission to talk to Li Yuanfang at the beginning, Li Yuanfang also used Transcendence Sound Transmission to reply. Their voices could only be heard by the senior and junior brothers of Xianmen Tianzong. Zhu Yi smiled and said, "To be straightforward and point out the error, 6th apprentice brother did not do anything wrong." His gaze fell on Chu Yang, who was in the light and shadow illusionary realm. "I'm rather interested in this fellow Taoist from the Beyond Heaven Mountain. 3 years have passed in the boundless universe, and I can see that he has also cultivated in the heavenly abode that has accelerated time. However, it shouldn't have been too long, and he has already formed his gold core. If Shushan had provided him with resources and he had talent, it would not be a big deal for him to have such achievements. However, Beyond Heaven Mountain has clearly turned its back on Shushan and leaned towards our sect. Yet, our sect has not given this fellow Taoist Chu any obvious help. It is really not easy for him to have achieved what he has today." Zhu Yi looked at Chu Yang, who was silently hiding at the side and watching the battle between Fan Xiufeng, Shi Shaoqian, and Shi Jingyun. Slowly, he said, "Although I do not know what kind of Dao, technique, and mystique he is using, his ability to hide is quite outstanding. It does not seem like he is from Beyond Heaven Mountain's orthodoxy." Xiao Yan smiled and said, "He is also a person with fate. Now that you mention it, I also remember that when he and the people from Beyond Heaven Mountain first arrived at Cloud Mirror City, I saw him. At that time, I felt that this person was a little different from the rest." Zhu Yi nodded and said, "Let's see how he performs." At this moment, the battle situation had nothing to do with Chu Yang. Fan Xiufeng, Shi Shaoqian, and Shi Jingyun were locked in a fierce battle. At this moment, a figure appeared within the Seven Lights defense design. He held a sharp sword in his hand, and the sword chi seemed to reach the heavens. It was the direct descendant of the Heavenly Sword sect, Kang Hai, who had been in the same group as Qin Xingyu in the first stage. The golden number, 3, lit up above his head. Because of the unexpected situation, their group's arrival at the top of the starry pagoda had been delayed by a lot. At this moment, Kang Hai had joined forces with Fan Xiafeng and used the Heavenly Sword sect's Heavenly Sword escape technique. He was constantly entangling Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun, attacking together with the Seven Lights defense design. His appearance caused Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun's hearts to sink. Kang Hai's extraordinary cultivation was secondary. The key was that the speed of his Heavenly Sword escape technique was too fast. Among all the cultivators participating in the Dharma assembly, Kang Hai's speed of escape was among the best. There were only a few people who could match him, let alone those who could surpass him. Kang Hai and Fan Xiafeng joined forces, completely eliminating the possibility of Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun escaping. Even if they could break out of Fan Xiafeng's Seven Lights defense design, Kang Hai could use his advantage in speed to entangle them. He did not need to fight them head-on. All he needed to do was buy time for Fan Xiafeng to rearrange his formation. If they did not escape, it would be very difficult for the two to fight. Fan Xiafeng's formation, with the help of the terrain, was extraordinary, and could already contend with them. Now that Kang Hai had joined the fray, the battle situation immediately became unbalanced. Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun could only defend, and could not retaliate. Since appearing, Fan Xiafeng spoke for the first time. The two of you have extraordinary cultivation. Even if I join forces with fellow Taoist Kang, we cannot win quickly. If this stalemate continues, it will be a waste of time. Only the top 8 can advance to the second stage. Time is precious, don't waste it. Shi Jingyun snorted. Easy for you to say. You really have good skills. But if you want us to lower our heads, you must be dreaming. Worst comes to worst, we'll just break up. Fan Xiafeng squinted his phoenix eyes and said unhurriedly, the two of you should be able to guess that fellow Taoist Kang and I are only after the golden hoop. Leave your golden hoop, and we will not make things difficult for you. You still have time to think of a way to get the other golden hoop. Perhaps you can make it to the top 8. If this stalemate continues, you will definitely lose. There is no chance at all. Fan Xiafeng pointed at the runes of the Seven Lights defense formation on the ground. I don't want to fight to the death. Otherwise, I'll destroy all the treasures used to set up the formation and push the power of the formation to the limit. I can defeat you guys quickly, but this will affect my ability to participate in the spell assembly. In a spell assembly, the priority is to learn from each other. There is no need to take the path of no return. Harming others without benefiting yourself, I hope the two of you will reconsider. His words were frank and used both hard and soft tactics. He wanted to destroy Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian's fighting spirit and end the battle quickly. After all, Fan Xiafeng already had 7 golden hoop. Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian had a total of 9 golden hoop. He only needed 3 to make up the number and pass the second stage. Shi Jingyun raised her eyebrows and was about to speak when Shi Shaoqian suddenly said to her telepathically, give them our golden hoop. Shi Jingyun was stunned at first, but he quickly reacted. They had a total of 9 golden rings, and Fan Xiafeng only needed 3 to make up the number, but Kang Hai had 7, which was also enough to make up the number. If they gave the golden hoop now, it was very likely that they would start an internal conflict. With the 10 golden hoop in hand, they could not be transported out of this small world immediately. They had to wait for about a quarter of an hour. Too many things could be done in this quarter of an hour. The opportunity for the two of them to turn defeat into victory might be here. After understanding the logic, Shi Jingyun snorted, Fan Xiafeng, you're good. As she spoke, she took out 5 of her golden hoop and threw it out. Shi Shaoqian also took out 4 golden hoop and threw them out. The 9 golden hoop flashed in the spell formation and disappeared. Almost at the same time, a sword light flashed, but it was one step slower. It was Kang Hai. Fan Xiefeng smiled. Of course, he knew how fast Kang Hai was. Since he had come up with such a plan, he must have taken Kang Hai into consideration. Otherwise, if Kang Hai collected 10 golden rings first, he would be the one embarrassed. Fan Xiefeng opened his palm. The space above him flashed and 9 golden lights appeared. They were the golden hoop that had been transported by his spell formation. Although Kang Hai was fast, the 7 light defense formation was controlled by Fan Xiefeng. Fan Xiefeng smiled and said, Taoist Kang, do you not trust me? I only need 3 golden hoop. The rest are yours. Halfway through his words, Fan Xiefeng's expression changed. He looked like he had seen a ghost. A strange sword light suddenly flew out and swept away the 9 golden hoop. A black-robed youth appeared and took the golden hoop. In an instant, he left, leaving behind a dumbfounded Fan Xiefeng and company. It was Chu Yang. His strange concealment technique allowed Fan Xiefeng, who was the spell formation's controller, to not sense him at all even though he had infiltrated the 7 light defense formation. Fan Xiefeng, Kang Hai, Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun were stunned for a moment. They immediately reacted and chased after Chu Yang. Chu Yang could leave others behind, but Kang Hai's speed was above him. In the blink of an eye, Kang Hai had already caught up to him. Chu Yang didn't panic. Instead, he asked a question that left Kang Hai dumbfounded, fellow Taoist, do you have 3 golden rings with you? Chapter 685. The Heavenly Sword Sect's Great Tao Heavenly Sword, along with the Mount Shu Sword Sect's Shaozi Sword Artifact and the Celeritas Sword Sect's Xana Sword Escape, were known as the 3 fastest sword arts in the Divine Land. At the same time, they were among the fastest arts in the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. Although Kang Hai's Heavenly Sword Escape was inferior to the Great Tao Heavenly Sword, the cultivators participating in this spell assembly were all in the Golden Elixir period and the Foundation Establishment stage. After everyone's cultivation had been suppressed to the Foundation Establishment stage, Kang Hai's speed was one of the best. In the current situation, in terms of speed, Kang Hai was the fastest. He quickly caught up to Chu Yang. But at this moment, Chu Yang's question made Kang Hai slightly stunned. Friend, do you have 3 golden hoops on hand now? Chu Yang asked with a smile. Kang Hai frowned slightly, but still answered calmly, I am ashamed. I am still far from the number of golden hoops I have. I only have 3. Chu Yang smiled. That's great. I only want 2 of the 9 golden hoops I have. I can give the remaining 7 to you. That way, you will have enough golden hoops. When Chu Yang asked this question, Kang Hai's heart trembled slightly as he thought of this possibility. However, Chu Yang's decisiveness still caused Kang Hai to sigh in admiration. The level of this child's cultivation is secondary. His temperament is truly rare. Chu Yang was the Oriole behind. He had stolen 9 golden hoops from Fan Xiefeng, which was almost enough to satisfy one person's needs. But now, Chu Yang gave 7 to Kang Hai without even blinking. This was because looking at everyone present, only Kang Hai could pose a real threat to Chu Yang. The others, whether it was Fan Xiefeng, Shi Jingyun, or Shi Shaoqian, could not do anything to Chu Yang. Whether Chu Yang could beat them or not was another matter. If he did not want to fight, he could just leave. They could only watch. Only Kang Hai, who cultivated the Heavenspan Sword Escape, could surpass Chu Yang in terms of speed. He didn't need to fight Chu Yang to the death. All he needed to do was tie down Chu Yang's footsteps. When the others caught up, Chu Yang, with his 9 golden rings, would naturally become the target of everyone. Chu Yang's movements were not sloppy. He immediately counted out 7 golden hoops and threw them to Kang Hai. Kang Hai caught the golden hoops and looked at Chu Yang with a complicated gaze. But in the end, he still said, thanks. After saying that, he no longer chased after Chu Yang. With a flash of sword light, he flew in another direction. Chu Yang didn't expect Kang Hai to help him. These 7 gold rings were used to buy Kang Hai's hand. Although Fan Xiefeng was far away, he could still hear the conversation between Chu Yang and Kang Hai. As soon as Chu Yang said the first sentence, Fan Xiefeng cursed in his heart, not good. Kang Hai had taken the golden bangle and there was nothing he could do. Kang Hai's heavenly sword escape was too fast. Unless Fan Xiefeng trapped him in the formation, no one could stop Kang Hai if he wanted to leave. Fan Xiefeng and Kang Hai had formed an alliance in order to gather the gold rings needed to clear the level as soon as possible. Now that Kang Hai had achieved his goal, he naturally did not need to team up with Fan Xiefeng anymore. Kang Hai was the only one who did not have to worry about being ganged up on by others after gathering the golden hoops. This was because his speed was the fastest. If he gathered all 10 golden hoops, the others would not have any hope and could only blame it on their bad luck. Fan Xiefeng frowned as he looked at Chu Yang. It was this person who had ruined all his plans. Fellow Taoist, please excuse me, Chu Yang did not panic. Not only did he stop running, he turned around to face Fan Xiefeng. Even though his plan had failed, Fan Xiefeng did not lose his cool. When he saw Chu Yang taking the initiative to attack instead of retreating, Fan Xiefeng felt a sense of unease in his heart. As expected, Chu Yang raised his voice, fellow Taoists of the great Qin dynasty, if you have a grudge, then take your revenge. If you want to take revenge, then the opportunity is right in front of you. Fan Xiefeng's heart sank. The uneasy feeling from before had finally come true. He suddenly realized that he had fallen into an extremely disadvantageous situation. Turning around, Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian had turned into 2 dragon silhouettes and had caught up. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Shi Jingyun's face turned red. Dissatisfied, she snorted, our golden hoops seem to have fallen into your hands. And you even gave them to that Kang Hai. Chu Yang clapped his hands and laughed, according to what I know, this fellow from the Taishu temple has 7 golden hoops. He only had 2 golden hoops left. Between 2 and 7, even an idiot could tell which was the greater harvest. Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian's eyes lit up. Kang Hai had already escaped far away, leaving only Fan Xiefeng. With the combined strength of the 3, it would be difficult for Fan Xiefeng to escape even if he wanted to. But on the other hand, if Chu Yang wanted to run, with the speed he had displayed earlier, no one would be able to catch up to him after Kang Hai left. And Kang Hai had already collected 10 golden hoops. Naturally, he would be happy to leave and wait for 15 minutes to pass the second stage. Therefore, Chu Yang was now in an absolutely safe position. He could attack or retreat at will. On the contrary, Fan Xiefeng was pushed to the wall and could not get down. Shi Shaoqian nodded slightly. Shi Jingyun understood what she meant. The only thing they needed to be careful was not to let Chu Yang use the same trick and steal all the golden hoops. Chu Yang laughed, both of you, a gentleman's revenge is right in front of you. Even without the golden hoops, why are you hesitating? Shi Shaoqian looked at Fan Xiefeng and sneered, that's right. Even without the golden hoops, Fan Xiefeng, you won't have it easy today. Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian were tricked by Fan Xiefeng and were forced to hand over the golden hoops to buy their way. Although it was an expedient measure, they still felt deeply humiliated. Who would have thought that the tables would turn and they would have the chance to take revenge so soon? Fan Xiefeng took a deep breath and regained his composure. He took a deep look at Chu Yang. With a flip of the hand, he could summon clouds and rain. Looking at Chu Yang, these words appeared in Fan Xiefeng's mind. Everything was going according to Chu Yang's plan. With just a few simple steps, the situation had completely changed. Fan Xiefeng, who originally had the upper hand, had instantly fallen into an extremely dangerous situation. Regardless of Chu Yang's cultivation level, the crux of the matter was that Chu Yang had decisively given up the 7 golden hoops, indirectly eliminating Kang Hai. It sounded simple, but how many people would be able to give up most of the gold rings and let others take advantage of them when they already had 9 gold rings and only needed 1 more ring to make up the number? Fan Xiefeng knew that he could do it, but he would not be as decisive as Chu Yang, who did not hesitate for even a second. If Chu Yang had hesitated for just a moment longer and was entangled by Kang Hai, when Fan Xiefeng and the rest caught up, it would have given Fan Xiefeng time to set up the formation and it would not be easy for Chu Yang to leave. But now, the person in danger was Fan Xiefeng. He was blocked by Chu Yang and the other two from the front and the back. Everyone in the All Heavens Palace was watching this scene with interest. Yan Mingyue shook her head and said with a smile, "Ha, Xue Feng has suffered a great setback. I didn't expect this, I really didn't expect this. He is a genius. I remember he is a disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain, right?" Lin Daohan said indifferently, "Chu Yang, a disciple of Beyond Heaven Mountain's elder Meng Chaoran. He was once a guest in the residence of the great Zhou dynasty's fourth prince, Liang Qian, for over a year. 3 years ago, after bidding farewell to Liang Qian, he returned to Beyond Heaven Mountain to cultivate." After a short pause, Lin Daohan continued, "Including the time he spent cultivating in the accelerated time grotto, it took him less than 10 years to reach the early stage of golden elixir from Qi disciple realm level 10. All the primordial divinity experts present were slightly surprised. Dao Master Changle of the Great Qin dynasty stroked his long beard and said with a smile, "His cultivation talent is also extremely outstanding. A rare talent has appeared in Beyond Heaven Mountain, but he should have his own opportunities and fortunes, right? Just look at his concealment technique and outstanding speed escape technique. Although it is derived from Beyond Heaven Mountain's technique, it is much better." In the Spreading Law Hall, the cultivators from various families were also discussing. They did not expect a dark horse to appear in this spell conference. Beyond Heaven Mountain was not considered the weakest among the forces that came to Kunlun Mountain to watch the ceremony. There were also many local small and medium-sized forces that came to Kunlun Mountain to congratulate them. However, these small and medium-sized forces were self-aware. They did not have a worthy successor, so they simply did not participate in the spell conference. Beyond Heaven Mountain sent Chu Yang to participate in the spell conference. In fact, it was mostly to train and gain experience. They did not really have the intention to compete with the major forces. Seeing Chu Yang's performance, many of the cultivators from Beyond Heaven Mountain were quite surprised. Apart from being pleasantly surprised, there were also many doubts. The elders of Beyond Heaven Mountain looked at each other with complicated gazes. They were bewildered. One of the elders said, "When Marshal Nephew Chu comes down, we must ask him." Slowly, Wu Yunliang nodded and looked at Meng Chaoran. In the depths of their eyes, there was a sense of understanding hidden in their hearts. In the small world, Chu Yang, who had amazed everyone, was now looking at Fan Xiefeng and thinking, what will he do? Will he cut his losses and hand over the 7 golden rings to Great Qin's Shi Shaoqian and Shi Jingyun? Fan Xiefeng looked at Chu Yang, then looked at Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian. Suddenly, he smiled. His red phoenix eyes squinted. He leisurely took out his storage pouch filled with golden rings and poured them out. There were exactly 7 of them. Shi Jingyun and Shi Shaoqian's eyes lit up. If they could obtain Fan Xiefeng's 7 golden rings, they would be able to make up for most of their losses. Fan Xiefeng smiled and put the golden rings back into the storage pouch. However, he did not put them back into his own pocket. Instead, he threw them to Chu Yang. This action was beyond everyone's expectations. Even though Chu Yang had displayed his skills in concealment and escape, among the 3 people who attacked Fan Xiefeng, he was the weakest. However, Fan Xiefeng had chosen him to be the one to receive the fruits of victory. It was obvious that he wanted to divert the disaster. Fan Xiefeng watched as the storage pouch drew an arc in the air and fell towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang almost instinctively reached out to catch it. This scene fell into Fan Xiefeng's eyes and he immediately laughed. Who wins and who loses in this game of chess is now the key. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.